3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a somber Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. And you could always get at me on Instagram where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Moist Mike and Stuart Kovacs rocking and rolling with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Last night was a deflating football game where you tune in, you expect a heavyweight fight between two AFC North teams, and the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. And the last thing that you want to see are injuries impact and be the story of this game. Now, you commend the Baltimore Ravens for the way that they played. It's either them or Kansas City. to go to the Super Bowl this year in the AFC, but you see Baltimore lose Mark Andrews, and then right as the game was getting good, Joe Burrow has a wrist injury. You pan to him on the sidelines. He's trying to throw the football. He then realizes he can't. He falls down, walks off into the locker room, and you knew Joe Burrow wasn't going to return to the game. I was even thinking when it played out, remember we talked about this yesterday, the photo of him coming off the bus or the team plane as they were traveling to Baltimore, and it zoomed in, and you see this bandage that was on his wrist, and he wasn't on the injury report. So it was, let's monitor it, and let's see if this has a real impact on the game, and if this is going to be a story. And then during the game, it did become a story because he suffered a further injury. So when you see him leave the game last night, I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe Burrow misses a few weeks, and let's see if the Bengals survive. And now they're back at 5-5 after losing the game last night. But a few moments ago, you get the breaking news, which I'm sure many of you are aware that this happened. If you're not, well, if you're a Bengals fan, I say my apologies. And that's why I say it's a somber Football Friday, because Joe Burrow is one of my favorite quarterbacks, my favorite people in the NFL. And Joe Burrow is now out for the season due to the right injury that he suffered on the right wrist injury on Thursday night. And it's a torn ligament, and it's likely to require surgery. So now it's the Jake Browning show for the Cincinnati Bengals, unless they go get Matt Ryan out of the broadcast booth. I saw that Joe Flacco was working out for the Cleveland Browns. Who would have ever thought we'd see that? Maybe he then reroutes that plane and goes to Cincinnati. So we'll see what the Bengals do from here. But it is wild how quickly you could go from a team being back and a team looking like they were getting back into Super Bowl form to then, boom, your season's over. Poof, your season just now fades away into the air. Because that's what has happened here in the last 3 weeks with the Cincinnati Bengals. Coming off 2 awesome wins, really 3 awesome wins against the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Bills. They were thriving. They were moving back to the right direction. They won 4 games in a row, and it's like, okay, they survived the early injury scare to start the season with Joe Burrow. Then you have that back-and-forth game on the seesaw ride against the Texans, and we know last night they ended up losing 34-20 to the Ravens, but the loss is so much bigger than, you just lost a football game, and now you even up that record in the craziness of the chase to the AFC playoffs and the 7 teams that make it, because now you don't have the quarterback for the rest of the season. And you could argue, out of all the teams in the NFL, the most valuable player to his team and to his franchise is Joe Burrow. Now, you could just make as easy of that argument for Patrick Mahomes. We've seen Mahomes get hurt twice in the playoffs. And we've seen Chad Henne, right, complete that throw to Tyreek Hill to beat the Browns in the playoff game. We saw Mahomes get hurt last year in the playoffs as well. But you look at Burrow, year 1 as a rookie, he gets in there, starts to play well, and then tears his ACL. Then year 2, which is really his first true year as a starter from start to finish, they go to the Super Bowl. Last year, banged up, they get through that, and we know they go to an AFC championship game. And then this year, injured to start the season with the calf injury, finally starts to get healthy, and then you start to deal with the wrist injury, and this wrist injury ends up getting really bad where you have a torn ligament, and now you're going to need season-ending surgery. So as long as Burrow's on the field, this team has the look of a Super Bowl contender. This team has the look of a force and a dominant team, not only inside the AFC, but the entirety of the NFL. And now that evaporates into the thin air because Joe Burrow's done for the season. And we could play this game of who are they going to bring in. And unfortunately, we've had to play this game a lot this year. Aaron Rodgers with the Jets with the torn Achilles. We just played it earlier in the week with Deshaun Watson, who's out for the season with the shoulder injury. And now Joe Burrow with the torn ligament in his right wrist. So we have played this game. Who could you pick up? Who's going to come out of retirement? And usually when that happens, you are going down a road where there's nowhere to go, and you know there's a dead end, and you have to stick with the guy that's in your locker room. And Jake Browning was fine last night. He didn't light the world on fire, but he looked competent at times. But he's not Joe Burrow. And even though this defense is really damn good, led by Lou Anarumo and Trey Hendrickson, and on offense, I know T. Higgins was out last night, but you have a ton of pieces in Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. The list goes on and on and on. You could have a great team. You could have the looks of a dominant team, but if you're without your quarterback, you're SOL. And not every team and not every situation has the proper backup quarterback in place to survive, but can function also without their quarterback. When you see Phil Simms go down and Jeff Hostetler takes over and wins a Super Bowl, that's usually an anomaly. When Drew Bledsoe goes down and this kid Tom Brady gets onto the field and wins a Super Bowl in year number 1, those are rare occurrences. Carson Wentz, thriving in Philly, playing like the MVP. And then he gets hurt. They had the right backup in Nick Foles, who went on a magical run. But 9 times out of 10, and I guess you could say the same with Kurt Warner too, but 9 times out of 10, you lose your quarterback with how important the quarterback position is in this sport, your season's over, your season's done. And it's not as if the Bengals, like the Eagles did a few years ago, were on their way to the number 1 overall seed. Were so far in front of the pack that they were going to have home field advantage. They were going to have a bye. After that game last week against the Texans, there were legitimate concerns if the Bengals could still bounce back. And last night when I looked at that spread, and trust me, I did not win a lot of money last night. The 3 anytime touchdown bets I had, and no, that's not your emergency alert test system, so I don't want to alarm anybody. But I had Mark Andrews anytime touchdown, hurt. Lamar Jackson anytime touchdown. He gets hurt in the game and then returns. And then I also had Jamar Chase, who did not find the end zone. So when you go through those 3 bets, they did not hit. But the one bet that I did also make in addition to that was laying 3.5 points, or excuse me, the Jamar Chase touchdown did hit at the end of the game. I forgot he scored that touchdown right at the end. So one of those 3 bets hit. And then laying the 3.5 points with Baltimore, you just looked at that line. I thought they were begging you, absolutely begging you to plus the 3.5 with the Bengals. That's what I thought they were begging to do. And once I saw that, I said, man, the Ravens are going to win the game. And the Ravens end up winning the game by 14 points. So you take a glance when you lose your quarterback, and you not only lose your quarterback, but you're already dug so deep into a hole, it's very tough to climb out of it. And that's what the Bengals have, where it feels like right now, and I can't expect Jake Browning to do anything. Even though he looked fine in the game last night, it does appear like the Bengals season is over. And even if they find a way to make the playoffs, what damage are you going to do come postseason time? Because the Bengals are one of the few teams in the NFL where they have Super Bowl or bust expectations. So just making the playoffs is not good enough for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, if they make the playoffs with Jake Browning as their quarterback, it would be a big accomplishment. And we'll see how great of a coach Zach Taylor is. We'll see how the rest of the team responds. But I do believe this team checks out because mentally you go from, okay, we're just getting back into it. Okay, we're just starting to move in the right direction. And then boom, in a snap of a finger, your quarterback is done for the season. Not only your quarterback, the team's heartbeat, the team's pulse, and the team's leader. And their schedule the rest of the way, you still got to play the Steelers, which we know the Steelers have a great defense, no offense. You still got to play Jacksonville, who's a good team, not a great team. You got to play the Colts, Play the Vikings, trending in the right direction. Steelers, again. Then you have Kansas City and the Browns to wrap up the season. That's a tough schedule, especially with that division. So I just don't see the path now. I just don't see the road for the Bengals to make the playoffs. And you look at it right now, Chiefs, Ravens, Jaguars, Dolphins, Steelers, Browns, Texans will be your 7 playoff teams. And when you look at the rest of everybody, Colts are 5-5, Raiders are 5-5, Bengals are 5-5, Bills are 5-5. And you still give life to the Chargers, Jets, and Broncos somehow, who are all 4-5. So you have a mixture of teams that you're really splitting hairs for that final wild card spot, let's say. And now you take the Bengals' most important player off the field. And circling back to injuries, it was impossible last night when you see the aftermath of the Burrow situation, and now you look at it that way. In addition to, you see Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson is having an MVP quality season. Lamar Jackson, if the award was given out tomorrow, would either be him or C.J. Stroud winning the league's most valuable player. But the Ravens as a team, in addition to Lamar, are playing kick-ass football. And it does still feel like they could be better. That defense is dominant. But offensively, Mitchell's playing well. Gus Edwards finds the end zone. It stinks that Mark Andrews is now done for the season because he is a big-time imperative role to that team. But as of late, Zay Flowers, who's having a solid rookie season. You see Odell Beckham Jr. starting to come alive the last few weeks. This is a team that I still think there's another level. And with all that being said, they're 8-3. And they could still get better. But with all that being said, just like as we've seen with Joe Burrow, that could end rather quickly. And last night, unfortunately, when I'm watching the Ravens dominate, when I'm watching the Ravens kick ass against the Cincinnati Bengals, and I see Lamar Jackson suffer that ankle injury, I panic right away. I look up at the screen and I say, man, this just sucks. Because past history does matter. Look at the past history with Joe Burrow. Look at the past history with Lamar Jackson as well. We know Burrow's done for the season. Lamar Jackson says he's fine, and this ankle injury is no big deal, but it could change in the NFL off one play, one hit, or one kind of turf monster situation popping up. Because as great as the Ravens are right now, and as awesome of a team that they are, the last 2 years, Lamar Jackson has not been able to be on the field. And I just hope that history doesn't repeat itself, because if the great eight is healthy in Lamar Jackson, this team can accomplish anything this year. Because there's a short list of Super Bowl contenders. What you are seeing right now is there's a lot of good teams in the NFL, but not a lot of great teams. And in the AFC, the only two teams that I can envision right now getting to the Super Bowl are the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. And in the NFC, I think that list is three. It's the Eagles, it's the Lions, and it's the 49ers. So that's a total through 10 weeks of the season and the start of week 11. I only think there are 5 teams that you could make a legitimate argument for and feel great about in making a Super Bowl. Eagles, Lions, 49ers, Chiefs, and the Baltimore Ravens. So that does turn our attention to the poll question today, which you can find on Twitter at Zach Gelb, at CBS Sports Radio. Who represents the AFC in the Super Bowl this year? Ravens, Chiefs. I threw the Dolphins in there as the third option, and then other. Right now, the Chiefs are at 39.4%. Ravens are at 30.3%. Other at 16.7%, and Dolphins at 13.6%. I think this is a two-team race. I still give the edge to Kansas City, even though I would have no doubt and no concern about the Ravens going into Kansas City or hosting the Kansas City Chiefs and being able to beat them as we've seen in years past. The reason why I lean more Kansas City is we haven't even seen their offense, just like Baltimore, play their best game. And the Chiefs defense is playing really well. But mainly, I just look at Lamar Jackson. As much of a Lamar supporter and fan that I am, and as much as I want to see Lamar Jackson in the Super Bowl, because I think it would be great for the sport, and I think it'd be a lot like Giannis Antetokounmpo of a few years ago, where people were like, oh, Lamar just puts up great numbers. Oh, Lamar's just an MVP, but he can't win in the postseason. And then Giannis gave everybody the middle finger when he won the NBA Finals MVP and then ordered Chick-fil-A after, which was awesome, and got all those chicken nuggets, which I loved the next day following him on Instagram Live. But until Lamar makes it to the finish line, and I'm not talking about the Super Bowl, I'm not talking about can he win, but until he gets to the end of the season and is healthy, I just fear, after seeing a little bit of it last night, and I hate to predict injuries, and I hope that he does not get hurt, that this pops up where it has a similar ending the last 2 years, in a year where quarterbacks are dropping like flies, and unfortunately Lamar gets hurt once again. So I'll have to trust Mahomes in a year where the AFC is so wide open and how everyone's saying the Chiefs are vulnerable. We had the same song and dance last year, and Kansas City still found a way to get to the Super Bowl. So right now, I would give the slight edge to Kansas City over the Baltimore Ravens. What say you? 855-212-4CBS, 42-27. Who represents the AFC in the Super Bowl this year? Ravens, Chiefs, Dolphins, or is there another team that you buy into in the AFC? We'll take a break. Cortland Sutton wants people to apologize to Russell Wilson. We'll discuss that when we return. And also, who is an NFL team or a person in the NFL that you need to apologize to? The Zach Gelb Show is off and running on a very busy Football Friday. We'll be back in 5.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Stu, you could bump this up a little bit. I always like me some Jay Biebs. But I used to call his fans believers. I think so. I like Justin Bieber. And I have, I guess, somewhat of a hot take regarding Justin Bieber. If you are a man and you hate Justin Bieber, it's just because you're jealous of Justin Bieber. There was a time where every girl in America wanted to sleep with Justin Bieber. And I think everyone got jealous of Justin Bieber. Yes, there were some times that he did not conduct himself the right way, and let's not look over that. But if you're talking about just the ability that he was gifted with, considering his voice and then also his looks, yeah, there's a whole lot to be jealous about with Justin Bieber. And if I had to come back in a second life, and some people say, Zach, you have a good voice. Some people say, Zach, your voice is absolutely sounding like nails on a chalkboard. Or have you ever been to a really fancy schmancy restaurant? And then they bring out, I don't know what the device is called, but they clean up the table and they sweep the table at one of like a fancy steakhouse. I can't stand when that machine or that device is used on the tablecloth. It drives me bonkers. But if I would ever come back in a second life and I was reincarnated, I would want to be a singer. I think it would be so awesome to go into like a stadium, 50,000 people, 100,000 people, have everybody singing your name and chanting your name. And you just get to go on stage and perform like that. And also the fun lifestyle that becomes with being as popular and as good looking and as great as Justin Bieber. So I'm always a big fan of Justin Bieber. Now, Stu, I know you are a big fan of Taylor Swift. Are you a fan of Justin Bieber? Yes or no?
I'm not like a fan, like I like adore his music, but I'm not a hater. Like I'm not like, oh, this is terrible. Like I have probably a few Justin Bieber songs on my music.
Now, I could just tell by Samter. I'm going to assume, you know, one of those jealous people that I talk about with Justin Bieber about 2 seconds ago? Samter's going to say he's annoying, he's whiny, he's obnoxious, but down deep, Samter would just love to be Justin Bieber. I'm going to assume, you know what happens? You make an ass out of you and me when you assume. I'm going to assume that one Michael Samter is not a fan of Justin Bieber for those reasons.
Who wouldn't want to be a multimillionaire who could like be dating women? But I do find him to be insufferable. I think he's awful. I think his music is disgusting. It's not fun. It's not interesting. I think he is just a scumbag.
Whoa. We don't need to use that word.
He is. He's just,
no, he's not. He's a great singer. I'm a big fan of Justin Bieber.
You know what? He's a great singer, but he's got a terrible personality. He's an absolutely entitled little punk. I can't stand the guy. Now, you want to call it jealousy? It's not about jealousy. There's plenty of successful, good-looking guys out there who date wonderful women and have a lot of money that I adore, right? Justin Timberlake, love him. Austin Kutcher, whatever his name is. Think he's great, right? With Mila Kunis. There's a lot of guys.
Zach Gelb, love him, right? That was the next name you were going to say?
I'm talking about successful, handsome people. With
What are we doing here?
Are
you talking about me?
No, the opposite.
Jeez.
No, so there's plenty. He's just not one of them. He's just one of those guys who I find to be insufferable because of how he behaves, how he acts, and that mustache just, ugh.
Do you remember there was a time where paparazzi caught Justin Bieber walking around his mansion or outside his mansion right by his pool? He may have been on vacation or it's where he lives, and he was absolutely fully naked. Do you remember at all the viral quote from this?
No.
Well, let's just say his male body part went viral, and people were talking about how large that male body part is. So he was asked about it in an interview, and he goes, I was freaking out when it first was getting put out there, and people, like I saw the headline, oh, look at Justin Bieber's you-know-what, and he goes, I was really concerned what it looked like, because, well, you know, out in the sun, you just get out of the pool, maybe the pool's a little bit cold, you get a little shrinkage, and then he looks right into the camera and he goes, and everyone was talking about how enormous this thing was, and he goes, I actually thought it was going to look bigger. And I thought that was a very good line by Justin Bieber, and it was very creative. And I'm sure you just love Bieber because of that, Samter.
I've never heard about that. I've never seen the video or even heard the video existed. I don't care about that. Knowing Bieber, I'm assuming it was a publicity stunt. He was intentionally walking around naked, invited the paparazzi to sneak in, and he put some prosthetic on to begin with. I don't even care, though. I don't care about that. I didn't even know about that.
His Pisha deal was the size of you.
All the other stuff I know about him, he just comes off as just an insufferable fool, and it's just I can't stand him.
It's
Justin
a Friday.
Timberlake. He could be my best friend.
Okay,
right. So there's no jealousy about good-looking, successful, handsome men who date beautiful women. It's just him particularly. I don't like.
You need to be careful in the music world here, and here's why: because the guitarist for Avril Lavigne, as I told you, is a big fan of this show. Dave, he listens all the time.
He's my favorite guitarist in the world.
Well, music circles are very close, so I have not asked him his relationship, if he does have any, with Justin Bieber. Now, he promised me for your next big birthday, he will get Avril Lavigne to do a little shout-out, happy birthday to Moist Mike, all that stuff. That's the only time you like to hear the name Moist Mike if it's come from Avril Lavigne. And if you are being disrespectful to one of their own in the music world, I just don't know how that's going to work in the music world circle. So I would just tread very lightly here.
You know what? Avril Lavigne is a princess.
Be
Avril
careful
Lavigne
here.
Is wonderful. Avril Lavigne is everything that music is supposed to be. And there's no doubt in my mind that Avril Lavigne will look down on certain behaviors of said Justin Bieber. So I'm sure the guitarist shares those views, and Avril understands where I'm coming from.
Sounds like a lawyer here.
Yeah, listen, when you have the talent that she has, and when you have the aura that she has, she understands.
Gotcha. All righty. Well, anyway, is it too late now to say sorry? Is how we bounce back from break. Cortland Sutton posted an Russell Wilson apology form on his Instagram. This thing is funny. Russell Wilson apology form. Reason for behavior. The media convinced me that Russ was the problem, not Nathaniel Hackett. That's actually pretty good. I didn't actually watch the games last season. These are the check boxes. I'm a Seahawks fan, and I'm a Geno Smith supporter. I only looked at advanced statistics and analytics. I don't know jack bleep about football. Your apology to Russell Wilson should be louder than the disrespect you gave him last year. Let me comment on this here. Is Russell Wilson having a good season individually? Yeah. Right now, he's just under 2,000 yards passing. He has 18 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Russell Wilson has improved from last season. Russell Wilson has not fallen off a cliff, which the way it was looking like it was going to be and trending towards after last season. But Russell Wilson is still not an elite, great quarterback that right now we're all shaking in our boots if you were going up against the Denver Broncos. And just adding further point to this, we don't hand out participation trophies on this show. So just because Russell Wilson is playing well and he's playing better and he's playing good football doesn't mean we need to apologize to Russell Wilson. Last time I checked, the Broncos are 4-5. Last time I checked, Russell Wilson is still not a top 5 quarterback in this league. And when you traded all those draft picks and gave him the extension and the lucrative extension, you don't just get a pat on the head and let me say, oh, I need to say sorry to Russell Wilson because the team is 4-5 and he's playing competent football. So let's pump the brakes a little bit, Cortland Sutton, on demanding that people issue an apology to one Russell Wilson. Now, with that being said, who is someone or who is a team in the NFL that through the first 10, 11 weeks of the season, you need to issue an apology to? I will start with Stu. Who is the team or who is the player, person, whatever you want to say, coach, GM, executive, that you need to apologize to in the NFL?
Definitely not Josh McDaniels. I will go with the Houston Texans.
Ooh.
They made that draft day trade to get up for Will Anderson. with the third pick with the Cardinals. They traded this year's first-round pick as well as the third-round pick. And I was like, oh, I don't know about this rookie quarterback, kind of a rebuild. This feels like this could be a team that's in the bottom 5. See how C.J. Stroud would progress. Well, C.J. Stroud's amazing. They look good. They're 5-4. They have a good shot at the playoffs right now. Pretty easy division minus the Jaguars. So, yeah, the Texans are a team that I didn't think were going to be anywhere near a playoff team, and they're at least have a chance to make the playoffs.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't have taken the Texans seriously a week ago after the 2 wins that they just had with what C.J. Stroud did up against the Bucs with the 470 yards and the 5 touchdowns, and then what he did the following week in that great game up against the Bengals. But it's like, okay, they're 5-4, and it's like, where are you going? But then in just a span of this week, the team that you just beat the following week, the week earlier, they just lost their quarterback for the season in Joe Burrow. And also the Browns in your conference just lost Deshaun Watson for the season. So even though there is a grouping of teams with similar records or right close in the mix, now the Texans, where we were in the beginning of the week, where it's like, okay, you still have some skepticism about them making the playoffs, even though we all acknowledge they're moving in the right direction. Now it does feel a lot more realistic. And also, the Jaguars have come back down to earth, too, where they've showed they could just be good teams and not great teams. So maybe they're alive for the division. So that's a good one, a little mea culpa from Stuart Kovacs. All right, Moist Mike, what do you got, Santher?
Within my own division, a team that I've hated my entire life since I was a kid, the Miami Dolphins, I have to apologize for Tua Tagovailoa because I have been anti-Tua, just saying that he's...
You're not a part of the Tua-nun?
Well, I am now.
I know, but first off, you trash Justin Bieber.
That he was the guy.
You just trash Justin Bieber, and then you weren't a fan of Tua Tagovailoa. I'm surprised when you walk out of the studio every day, there's not a group of people waiting to just kick your ass.
Oh, every other day. That's why I have this black guy right here. No,
You have a black guy?
Tua. Yeah, I got one every other day. I get one. I just get beat up all day, every day.
Wait, no, but I think you're joking when you say that. But then I look at the camera.
No, I don't have a black eye.
Your eye does look a little bit darker when I look at the camera. Maybe it's the lighting.
That was from Stu, I think.
What, Stu just elbowed you during the break?
All the time.
He put you in a Draymond Green chokehold?
He comes off as this nice guy, but Stu is just vicious. He's a violent, vicious human being.
It's for all the Raider jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys beat my Jets, so I guess I can't. Or my old Jets.
Oh! Fraud alert, fraud alert. We all know you're still a Jet fan. Stop with the shtick.
Never. But no, I thought Tua was a good quarterback, but I never thought that he was going to be an elite level quality starting quarterback. That I thought he was going to be injury prone. I thought this whole practicing judo was going to be nonsense. He was going to be hurt by week 2. It's different. Tua is a top 5 quarterback. He is
top 5? Top 10. I can't go top 5.
Top 5, top 6?
Well, maybe after all these injuries, potentially in the top 5. Rodgers done for the year. Burrow done for the year. Yeah, quarterbacks are dropping like flies.
I don't think I'm putting Josh Allen above Tua. Tua, when he's healthy, is as good of a quarterback in the NFL as there is.
Better than Mahomes?
Outside of Mahomes.
Better than Burrow?
On the same plane as Burrow.
Jalen Hurts?
On the same plane as Hurts. When he's healthy, the numbers he puts
good.
up, how accurate
he's really
he is.
good.
And listen, I get it. Tyreek Hill makes people better, makes quarterbacks better. Tyreek Hill is legit. But that offense and Tua, not everybody can run that offense.
I picked the Dolphins to win the AFC East before the start of the season. So you can't say I don't believe in the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, though, are the definition right now this year. Good team, not great team.
I don't agree with you.
In their 3 biggest games of the season, they lost to the Bills. They got embarrassed by the Bills. They lost to the Chiefs, and they lost to the Eagles. And what was damaging to Tua, who's having a remarkable season, if it wasn't for DeMar Hamlin, he would be the comeback player of the year. There's no doubt about that. But in that game against the Chiefs in Germany, he's driving with the game on the line, trying to tie it up. Maybe they get the touchdown, go for 2. He had one of the worst underthrows I've ever seen. And then the next play, fumbles the snap. That, to me, still says Tua he took a big step this year. But to go into the top 5, to go into the elite category, he still has some work to do, and the Dolphins as a team still have work to do.
We'll see at the end of the year. I'm a believer in Tua. I'm a believer in that team, and I'm a believer in Mike McDaniel. I think that they're going to be a force in the AFC and the NFL for the next half decade or more.
All righty, here's my mea culpa and the team I need to say sorry to. It's the Detroit Lions. I don't know, maybe it's just because naturally everyone in America was hyping up the Lions before the start of the season. And I said I would not be shocked if they missed the playoffs. I thought they would just be a wild card team if they make the playoffs. But through the first 10 weeks of the season, I know the Vikings are getting hot, but I still think the Lions will win their first division title since 1993. And not only do I think they'll win their first playoff game since 1991, I could see them winning multiple playoff games. Dan Campbell is a stud. Dan Campbell is a great coach, and I don't use that word very freely and very often. Alex Anzalone has been phenomenal on the defensive side of the ball. Aiden Hutchinson should have been the number 1 overall pick. I do not know what the Jaguars are doing with Trayvon Walker. And then you look at the offensive side of the ball, Jared Goff is looking like a franchise quarterback. Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to be one of the more underappreciated players in the sport when it comes to the wide receiving position. Jahmyr Gibbs is just starting to get hot. David Montgomery survived the injury scare. This team has everything right in front of them. And they're a team I need to apologize because I did not think they were going to make the playoffs. I thought they would have a good season and then just come up short because everyone was picking them to win that division and to make the playoffs this year. So I say sorry to the Detroit Lions. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. But first up, standing by with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, last night's Thursday night NFL matchup featured a couple of injuries to some major players, and the Bengals have lost quarterback Joe Burrow for the remainder of the season to a torn ligament in his right wrist. Last night's loss dropped them to 5-5, and now Burrow's injury effectively ends any hopes of the postseason. Ravens tight end Mark Andrews also done for the season with an ankle injury. Ime Udoka's one season in Boston led to a trip to the NBA Finals, and he's had an immediate impact in his new home. The Rockets have won 6 in a row and look to extend the streak tonight in LA against the Clippers. Aside from Udoka, the Rockets have added some veteran leadership in Jeff Green, who said the streak has certainly boosted their self-esteem.
It gives us confidence in things that we're in knowing the things that we're capable of. We played well tonight. The last 2 games, when we needed stops, we got them. And, we can't rely on the offense all the time. I think we did a great job defensively of, sticking to the strategies that Coach gave us, and we played together.
Denver has been the best team in the West. The defending champs go for their 10th win in New Orleans, while the Celtics, also at 9-2 after 4 straight wins, try to extend their winning streak in Toronto tonight. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, Perloff, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet.
Maggie, you can find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Sean Payton may be the biggest buffoon in the NFL right now. Because Sean Payton this offseason, he went after Nathaniel Hackett. And he said Nathaniel Hackett did one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the league. When you say that, it's a must-win when you go up against Nathaniel Hackett's offense. The Jets won the game up against the Denver Broncos, and that is as bad of a look as humanly possible for Sean Payton.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Time to update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All righty, let's start it off. This is from a few moments ago. Joe Burrow did address reporters. This is following the announcement that Joe Burrow is out for the season with a torn ligament in his right wrist. This was Joe Burrow being asked if the injury that he suffered had anything to do with why he was wearing the brace that was kind of caught on camera, that was released by the Bengals and wasn't intentionally doing so to get out there to the public in terms of, oh, he's wearing something on his right wrist. But does this injury have anything to do with that photo that we saw and why you had a brace on your right hand?
This is a completely different thing. It's not uncommon for guys to wear compression sleeves on plane because when you go up to that altitude, things can swell up. I had, football, you have a lot of bumps and bruises. This is a completely new injury.
Now, none of us are world-class athletes. I think that's the easiest thing that I've ever had to say on CBS Sports Radio, judging by myself, Samter, and Stu.
Speak for yourself.
Have you ever gone on a plane, though, and said, I'm fearful of my wrist or my hand swelling up, so I'm going to use some device?
No, not my hands, but I have actually worn a compression sleeve on my leg one time.
Really?
Yes.
What for?
I had hurt my leg, and someone had mentioned something about how the altitude could actually cause swelling. So I wore a compression. I mean, everything was fine, but I was warned ahead of time. So I do know that to be somewhat reality.
So first and foremost, all the best to Joe Burrow. Hope he heals very quickly. I'm one of the biggest Joe Burrow fans that there is. I love Joe Burrow. But what you just said, the reason why you did that was because there's a pre-existing injury. The reason why you put that sleeve on is because there was some existing injury that you were fearful of when you got on the plane. Correct?
It wasn't like an acute injury, but it was like something.
You had something
my
wrong
was
with you.
bothering me. Yes.
So there was still something wrong with Joe Burrow. Why he would put that on, and therefore why wasn't he on the injury report? And that's like still part of this, where there's going to be that investigation. So he could say this has nothing to do with it, something totally different, unless you're just wearing that for the sake of wearing it. And he could just be like a few bumps and bruises naturally through the course of the season. But if something is needed for you to wear that, bare minimum, you should be on the injury report, no?
Yes, but again, with that kind of situation, again, with the quarterback where your hand is the most important thing, I don't know, maybe quarterbacks do that frequently whenever they fly long distances or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a significant acute injury that, like, right now I have this injury to my wrist and therefore I'll wear this. It could just be a thing. Sometimes people fly and some people are more prone to getting, swelling than others. So maybe he's just one of those people who, when he flies, that's what he wears.
Yeah, but let's go track the history of him flying to other destinations this year. I'm sure the internet trolls will be having a field day with this.
If he never wears it ever, and this is the only time he's done it, then that's something fishy to me.
Let's go to Dan Campbell. He was asked about the reports that his alma mater, A&M, he's the dream candidate. Does he have any interest in the A&M job with the Aggies?
Unofficially, officially, did Texas A&M approach you?
Maybe, but that's all good, and certainly I know some people there, and I love my school, that's my, alma mater, and I want to do anything I can to help them, but coach for them, and I'll do that.
Yeah. You're going to be a helping hand to the university. Now, I don't know how much of an involvement he's going to have in the search, but you'd be foolish to leave the NFL, where it's easier to coach the NFL than it is college, and there's fewer responsibilities. And also, you have a team right now in what is usually a dreadful organization that is absolutely rolling. You'd be the dumbest person on the planet. You go from, like, the most well-liked guy to being the dumbest person on the planet if you left the NFL right now for the A&M job. Let's go to Julian Edelman. He was on with Colin Cowherd, and he says he doesn't defend Mac Jones.
This is a production business, okay? And everyone keeps on wanting to say, he's had 3 offensive coordinators. He's had
Lamar Jackson.
So is Lamar Jackson. And he's really only had 2 offensive coordinators. I had Billy O'Brien and Josh McDaniels, and that's the same scheme. That's the same. There's a couple wrinkles here and there, but you're fundamentally doing the same things. It's just been tough for Mac to execute in the high-pressure situations, and it comes down to his confidence. He's lost his confidence.
Mac Jones has not been put in the best position to succeed. But we could also acknowledge Mac Jones has made some terrible throws and some terrible decisions, which you don't just give him a pass. Like the stupidity last year of having those 2 bozos in Joe Judge and Matt Patricia run the offense was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the history of football. And then this year you get an actual offensive coordinator, but you don't have the great weapons around him. Still, when you're driving late in a game and you have already got through 56, 57 minutes of football, that shouldn't be the reason why you make a hellacious throw and throw a pick to the other team. So, yes, Mac has not been put in a position to succeed, but it does not exonerate Mac from his own individual decision-making as well. Stephon Diggs on his brother saying he wants out of Buffalo in a series of tweets that we talked about earlier in the week.
I'm not responsible for how other people feel. Anybody in this room, for this matter, a reporter, a player, even my own brother, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love my brother. And the space that my brother's coming from is my family, you know what I'm saying? So you want to know how he feels, you got to take it up with him.
The only thing I'll say, though, if let's just say my sister was tweeting things out about me, and I had a problem with her tweeting those things out, I would say stop tweeting those things out. So since Stephon Diggs is like, oh, this is my brother, he's entitled to his own opinions, fine. But does he have those beliefs on his own? Or have you guys, in what was a tumultuous offseason, talked about maybe how you want to try to get on up out of Buffalo? And is that Trayvon Diggs doing your dirty work? That's the question that still remains unknown to me, even with Stephon Diggs right before the start of the season saying he loves Buffalo and how much he wants to still remain a Buffalo Bill. There was a big problem this past offseason. The toothpaste came shooting out of the tube, all of it, and then Sean McDermott didn't help putting the toothpaste back in the tube, and then Diggs did that right at minicamp or training camp where he tried to put all the toothpaste back in the tube, and that's just a disaster. And finally, here is Saquon Barkley on loyalty.
Do you hope that teams see that as loyalty or
loyalty means
commitment?
nothing. Loyalty, that don't mean nothing. No matter how loyal, no matter how committed you are, it's a business at the end of the day. That's something I've learned.
He loves New York. I think he's done with the Giants, though. He wants a contract extension. They, I guess, got close this offseason, but yet so far, I guess they could franchise tag him again, but if he hits the open market this year, I don't think he returns to the New York Giants. I think he would be as good as gone if he gets to the open market, and that's why I thought the Giants should have traded him at the deadline, because this Giant team was going nowhere, and even though you have a regime that's been together for 2 years, it's going to be a big offseason for the Giants, but it does feel as if when they made a big step last year, now they've taken a big step back, that you don't have a ton of pieces that you really move forward with. And I don't think Shane nor Dayball get fired at the end of this year. And you're technically not starting over, but it does feel as if this team is starting right over because Daniel Jones isn't the answer. And I don't think they get a long-term deal done with Saquon Barkley. It would be kind of stupid to give a running back long-term money when this team is still very far away. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll discuss the Buffalo Bills and one thing they need to do this weekend up against the Jets.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. So the biggest news of the day, Joe Burrow done for the season after the injury that he suffered last night that may have been a pre-existing injury, as we all saw that video that transpired and that came out the other day where he's walking off the plane or walking off the team bus, and he has that bandage around his right wrist. We played you the audio in the last hour as Joe Burrow had a press conference today after it was announced following their defeat to start Week 11 on Thursday Night Football that Burrow is done for the season with the torn ligament in his right wrist. And basically, Burrow said that had nothing to do with any previous injury. It was just to prevent any swelling happening when you get up in the air with the increased altitude when you are flying from Cincinnati to Baltimore for the game last night. Let's play you a few more cuts here from Joe Burrow. This is Joe Burrow discussing his hand and wrist injury.
You work so hard for seasons and moments like these, so whenever you get hurt and it ends it early, it's tough to handle. But that's part of the game. Been through it before, so just got to grind it out.
Two things. One, it's crazy how quickly an NFL season can end. We saw it at the beginning of the season with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. All the excitement, all the big-time hype heading into a season. He runs out with the American flag on the field, anniversary of 9/11. Like, what an electric atmosphere at MetLife Stadium. And how emotional that was. And then 4 plays into a season, tears the Achilles. And Rodgers knew it right away. He goes to stand up. He sits right back down. He knew his season was over. Now, Rodgers will tell you that he's the world's quickest healer and he's still going to return this year. I'll still believe that when I see it. But that went away, and that hope and that optimism of Jet fans went away 4 plays into a season. For Bengals fans, you knew Burrow had a calf injury. He still gutted it through. Team wasn't great to start the year. They were 1-3, and then he starts to get healthy. They win 4 in a row, and they are hot. And the Bengals are back, and they are sizzling. They're on fire. You lose a tough game to the Texans, and then you got to monitor something. You knew something was going on with the wrist, but how much of an impact would it have on the game? He's not on the injury report. And then during the contest last night, he goes to the sideline. You saw him in pain even after he threw the touchdown. And he goes to the sideline, tries to throw the football. And right away after 2 passes, we all saw it. It was a good job by Amazon getting it on video. And we all saw it on the sideline. Him visibly frustrated, could not grip the football, could not throw the football. And walking into the locker room when he slammed down his helmet and let out an expletive that I can't say on the radio, you knew that bare minimum he wasn't coming back to the game, and it was something serious. So it just stinks, and you feel terribly and horribly for the player when your season ends that way, especially when there was so much hope and optimism and you know what the goal is. The other thing here is we talk about quarterbacks being injury-prone, where we went through an entire offseason following the aftermath of the concussions with Tua Tagovailoa. We've seen Lamar Jackson the last 2 years, his season end with injuries and not being able to get back on the field. Now with Joe Burrow, we're talking about a 4-year career so far, where in year 1 he tears an ACL, year 2 and 3 for the most part healthy, and then year 4 starts off with a calf injury, and now we have a torn ligament in the right wrist. It just reiterates how protecting your quarterback and the health of your quarterback are the biggest things in this sport. Because when Burrow is healthy, he does things with the Bengals that were inconceivable. He does what a number 1 overall draft pick should do, and that is change the franchise, change the vibe, be a perfect representation of the organization, be a perfect leader, and galvanize a locker room and take them to the highest of heights. And he came close a few years ago. If their line just held up for another half second against Aaron Donald, and I was at that game at SoFi Stadium, he had Jamar Chase wide open down the right sideline, but Aaron Donald was all up in his grill. So there was nothing you could really do when one of the most ferocious players on the planet is right in front of your cabeza. So you see how effective Burrow is when he's healthy. He is worth all the hype and all the buzz and all the palpable buzz that surrounds him. But now 4 years in, 2 injuries, 2 season-ending injuries, and then when healthy, Super Bowl AFC champion. And you never know how long, or getting to another AFC title game. You never know how long a window is open. The Bengals still have a really good team, but the Bengals only go as far as the health of Joe Burrow. And I hope that these are just 2 years that are anomalies. And when we look back in 10 years, when we look back a decade from now, 15 years from now, we're not saying, man, Joe Burrow showed you how great he could be. I just hope this doesn't turn into what could have been if these injuries continue to pop up and continue to impact and be detrimental to Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals organization. And really, last night was such a bizarre game. You had Lamar Jackson get hurt, but be okay. Mark Andrews get hurt as well, and that was a serious injury. Joe Burrow get hurt. That was a serious injury. And you also had the drone issue last night. I don't know about you, Samter. I feel like you're a very big drone guy for some reason. I could see you on your weekend flying around your drones and all that stuff and having a whole lot of fun with that. Did we ever find out where the drones were from? Did we ever get any clarity there? Because there was 2 different times in the game last night where where the game had to be delayed and they had to go to commercial break because of this drone flying around. Was that Connor Stallion still doing some scouting? Was he getting hired by an NFL team already? And he was looking at the Ravens or Cincinnati Bengals signs? Because that was wild to me. And we've seen drones pop up before, but how a drone caused a delay twice in the game. The drone was there once, and you'd think once you got caught and caused a delay, the drone isn't flying back, but the drone did fly back last night. Did you see anything, Samter? No, you haven't? Okay, in terms of the explanation of what was going on with the drone. We used to have great NFL film highlights. What the hell is going on out there with Vince Lombardi? Now it's like, what the heck is going on out there with the bleeping drone? That was just wild. All right, here is more Joe Burrow on how he hurt his hand last night.
The play before it happened, I landed on the wrist a little bit. And then the next play, the touchdown pass, just felt the pop in the middle of the throw. Tried to give it a go, but just couldn't get it done. So, and obviously got the news today, so not great.
And finally, Joe Burrow won't let his injury define him.
I've been through stuff like this before, so it's nothing new. Like I said, it's football. Stuff like this happens. You just got to learn to live with it. And, I've talked a lot about leaning on your support system. I got a great support system, great friends, great family. I'll be around here, so not ideal, but, I've got what it takes, and the people around me got what it takes to get it done.
It absolutely sucks, and quarterbacks are just dropping like flies this year. Rodgers, done for the season, more so you think. You also have Kirk Cousins, done for the season with the Achilles injury. You look at Deshaun Watson, now done for the season as well. These injuries just keep on popping up, and it just reiterates how you need the health of your quarterback. And if you don't have the health of your quarterback, you really don't have much in the NFL season. And you never look for an injury. You never root for an injury. But I really do hope that this just ends here. But you can't say that with great certainty and great confidence because there's been a ton of injuries this year. And I'm talking about nasty injuries with teams that have high expectations. And it's also right when things are starting to trend well. Like the Jets never have any optimism heading into the season. It's the most optimistic a Jet fan has been heading into a season this year in a long time. And then 4 plays in, boom, Rodgers goes down. The Vikings, after a terrible start, they just get moving in the right direction. Boom, Kirk Cousins goes down. Deshaun Watson finally looking like he's knocking off some of the rust. Boom, he goes down for the season. And the same thing with the Bengals. People started to say a few weeks ago, yours truly, the Bengals are back. Here comes the Cincinnati Bengals, Who Dey, all that stuff, rule the jungle. And now Joe Burrow is done for the season. So hopefully all the injuries have gotten out of the quarterbacks now, and we don't have any more teams get derailed this year with injuries to the quarterback position. All righty, I want to replay this from yesterday. This is a clip that we had with Leslie Frazier, who is the former head coach of the Vikings. Last year was the DC for the Buffalo Bills. We had a really good chat with him. The Buffalo Bills, that's a team with the injuries that we've just seen suffered this week to Deshaun Watson and Joe Burrow. You kind of start to think that the Bills are on life support. The Bills are very close to pulling the plug on the season. They're about to be dead. And back-to-back losses to the Bengals and the Broncos, and it's like 5-5, and they're just missing it. Now you look inside the AFC, the only 2 teams that you feel confident about are the Chiefs, who still have not played their best brand of football on offense, and the Ravens, who, as great as Lamar has been, I think they're, even at 8-3, they're still a level that they could even one up. But outside of those 2 teams, you don't have a ton of confidence. Like the Dolphins are good, but they're not great. The Jets don't have a quarterback, and they can't score a touchdown. The Steelers don't have a quarterback. Browns and Bengals both just lost their quarterbacks for the season. The Jaguars are a good team, but they can't beat any teams that actually have expectations. The Texans are starting to put it together. Somehow, some way, Stu's Raiders are alive. Alive now at 5-5. The Chargers still have a chance at 4-5. I guess the Broncos still have a chance at 4-5. So, looking at the Buffalo Bills, they go from back-to-back losses, 5-5, getting shredded. Ken Dorsey is now gone and fired as the offensive coordinator. He got relieved of his duties, as they like to say. And Joe Brady takes over as the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. And now, the Bills get another chance. The Bills that looked like they were about to get knocked out, right? The referee was chanting and counting out to 10. He gets to 9, and the Bills stand up. Because the Bills now still have a chance because so many other QBs are dropping like flies, and no one outside of Kansas City and the Ravens are taking this baton. And we know there's no questions about Kansas City in the postseason, but there are legitimate questions, even though I believe in the Ravens. There's questions if they could get the job done come postseason time. Now, the Bills, outside of this week, they have a brutal schedule. Now, you play the Jets this week. I know you lost to the Jets earlier this season. You should be able at home to take care of the New York Jets. But after that, they have the Eagles, they have the Chiefs, they have the Cowboys, they have the Chargers. That's a tough 4-game stretch. You wrap up the season, Pats who stink, but you lost to them earlier in the year. And then you have the Miami Dolphins. So the Bills have been miserable at 5-5. There's really not a ton of margin of error left with how close these teams are, but they could still be alive where earlier in the week they looked dead. But now with the latest developments of teams that were trying to make a playoff push as well with the Browns and then also the Bengals, you now have a greater chance than what you did earlier in the week on Monday. And then also now later in the week on Friday because of some of the injury news. But Josh Allen has to play Superman. Josh Allen now has to take it to the next level because defensively they lost Tre'Davious White, they've lost Matt Milano, and offensively there's just been too many turnovers. So as former Bills defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier on what he's seeing out of Josh Allen and how he would prepare for Josh Allen if he was a DC with another team in the NFL, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, in the past, people were always concerned with his mobility, and now he's running a whole lot less and becoming more of a pocket passer. Now, that may change under Joe Brady. They may let him get back to some of the things he's really done to put a lot of pressure on defenses. But if you don't have to worry about him running and making those splash plays with his legs, then you're just going to play coverage like teams are doing. And they've gotten some big plays just playing coverage without bringing pressure. Sitting back and playing zone, saying he's not going to run, and it's worked out well for teams.
It really is a catch-22 here. When you take a glance at Josh Allen, we've all said this. I said this the last 2 years. The Bills keep on saying Josh Allen needs to protect himself better. Josh Allen needs to know when to throw the football away, not take the big hit. And I said, well, how about Buffalo go gets a legit running back? And how about Buffalo runs the football more with their running backs and takes the ball out of the hands of Josh Allen? But now you've seen, even though they haven't got this great running back, but James Cook has done a nice job, and he shows some flashes. And you just hope it's not like Devin Motor Singletary, who I think, even though Motor had a good game last week, I do think there is more potential with James Cook than Devin Motor Singletary. But Devin Motor Singletary would be someone that would play like 2-3 good games and then would disappear, then play 2-3 good games, then would disappear. So there was no consistency with him. And at times that's been the case with James Cook as well. But they have made more of a commitment to running less with Josh Allen. And now we look at the Buffalo Bills and we see them at 5-5. You hear that answer, how teams are adapting to Allen running less and then just saying, we'll go play coverage. And we don't have to be concerned about him running, and there's no threat of, is Josh running, is Josh throwing? We know he's throwing, and we know they're still going to ask him to do a ton. And now you see this team's offense not looking good. So now at 5-5, there was a belief that I had before the start of the season, run fewer times with Josh during the season, get to the playoffs or get late into the season, and then you unleash the old Josh Allen and you preserve his body. Well, midnight is about to strike. You're in the 11th hour now. You can't wait and still treat this as if it's 5 or 6 o'clock p.m. You got to go. And Joe Brady this week, now the new offensive coordinator who was in the coaching room in Buffalo, but Ken Dorsey was the OC, they just got to let Josh Allen run again. They got to let Josh Allen cook to the way that he was playing the last 2, 3, 4 years where everyone was saying elite quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. They have to go back to that style where they just say bleep it and they'll deal with the consequences that occur with Josh Allen and the potential injury risk as well. Because if you don't let him go back to what he used to do, I still think we see the up and down play of Josh Allen. By the way, just one quick note, because everyone's trying to figure out like who replaces Deshaun Watson in Cleveland out for the year, who replaces Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Right now, the Browns are going to be starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and the Bengals will rock and roll with Jake Browning. We did see that Joe Flacco was on a flight to Cleveland, and he has a meeting and is going to work out for the team. We'll see if they sign him. Ari Mirov from My Sports Update, tremendous follow. Love Ari. Tennessee Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill told reporters that he has a desire to play. Remember, he got benched for Will Levis, the right move by Tennessee, but he never asked the team to be released from his contract. In a weird world where Ryan Tannehill's solid, but he's not good, he's not great, he's not sensational, but in a weird world where we all thought like, yeah, this is probably it for Ryan Tannehill. He'll go latch on somewhere, kind of take he's better than an Andy Dalton, but kind of take one of those roles where you're mentoring a young quarterback, and then you'll maybe get to start a season, and then eventually will get replaced. I got to change that approach. Ryan Tannehill should change that approach. He should go to the front office, and he should go to Mike Vrabel and say, guys, I've been a good soldier here. I know you guys paid me. I haven't put up a fuss here about getting benched, even though no one likes to get benched. You're not going to play me. You have Malik Willis in front of me. I know Will Levis is this team's starter for the rest of the year. They should grant him his release. He should ask for his release. Because not that Ryan Tannehill is this phenomenal, sensational quarterback, but Ryan Tannehill is better than Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Ryan Tannehill is better than Jake Browning. Ryan Tannehill is better than P.J. Walker. And Ryan Tannehill would be better than Joe Flacco at this stage of his career. So Ryan Tannehill needs to ask for his release, and he could go walk into a Cincinnati Bengals organization or a Cleveland Browns organization and go contend for a playoff spot. And we've seen before, right, in Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill make the playoffs. He's not good. He's not phenomenal, but he's better than the other options right now that you have in New York with the Jets with the crappy quarterback in Zach Wilson, and then also right now with the options they're going to be trotting out in the next few weeks with the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. So Ryan Tannehill, be selfish here. Think about yourself and demand and implore Tennessee to release you, because you could go walk into a playoff situation because you don't have one in Tennessee right now. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll get to the latest of the Michigan scandal next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Maybe the team I've been most impressed with this year in the NFL. It's the Baltimore Ravens. Going into the year, I thought the Ravens' apex would just be making the playoffs. But in 2 of the last 3 weeks, we've seen the Ravens go up against a very good Lions team and a very good Seahawks team. And neither of those games were close. And you have Lamar, who is dominant. They plug and play whoever they want at the running back position. That Ravens team is definitely a Super Bowl contender.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. So here is the latest on the Michigan scandal. Chris Patridge, the team's linebacker coach, has been fired. And sources told ESPN that Chris's firing stemmed from his lack of cooperation with the NCAA investigation. If you were sleeping yesterday, Michigan accepted the Big Ten's punishment of a 3-game suspension for Jim Harbaugh, and they're not going to go any further in court. And he has 2 more games remaining on that suspension. He could coach during the week, and then he just can't coach on game day against Maryland tomorrow, and then next week at a game that I'll be going to, the game, Michigan, Ohio State, in the Big House in Ann Arbor. So I said yesterday, right as this stuff was happening, that with this situation that was unfolding, Michigan continues to state, as does the NCAA, that Jim Harbaugh had no knowledge of this. Now, I think a lot of us roll our eyes and say he may not have been ordering the hit. It may not have been his idea. But when you are the CEO of the program, you have to know in some capacity. I don't think that Connor Stallions and Chris Patridge maybe were operating rogue through the entirety of this. I'm not saying Harbaugh knew from the start, but at some point he had to know, and there may be nothing that links him to it, and he just kind of turned the other way and allowed it to happen. But as I did say yesterday, there was going to be more to come out about a coach that was linked to this. Now, this article just states that Patridge, his firing just stems from a lack of cooperation with the NCAA's investigation. I think you could do the math here. If he's not cooperating with the NCAA, why is that? It's probably because he had a big say in what was going on here. So Michigan, which has kind of changed their tune in the last 24 to 48 hours, they go from fighting this, they go from due process to now, in some capacity, accepting the punishment and accepting pretty much some admission of guilt. And if you notice the wording from Michigan through the start, it's not been that they've been innocent. It's not been that they've done anything wrong. They just wanted due process, a.k.a. they wanted the NCAA or the Big Ten to operate how they usually operate, and that's like moving like snails so they could get through this season with Harbaugh on the sidelines. And as I said this, even as someone that has supported Michigan, even as someone that believes this is being made and portrayed as a bigger deal than what it actually is, all I've said from the start is that Michigan clearly did something wrong. But I don't believe the action needs to be as severe as others have, because Michigan really is guilty of being stupid here. That's what they're being guilty of, because there was no need, and I don't think there was this great advantage to go and steal signs. I'll never forget, in one of the books that Robert Kraft participated in, he said to Belichick, Bill, be honest with me, on a scale of 1 to 100, how much did Spygate help us? I think Bill said like 1 or 0. And then Kraft looked at Belichick and said, wow, you really are the world's biggest schmuck. And I don't think with how often sign stealing happens, it was a big advantage. Now, where you get a little bit of a hairy situation is how Michigan went about obtaining those signs. Sending stallions to go to opposing team stadiums and using a video camera, even though I could sit in the stands and do the same things and get the signs, that is a violation of the rules. And Michigan needs to be punished. And now Harbaugh got a 3-game suspension. But this doesn't mean this is where it all stops. This stops the Big Ten's involvement in it. But you know the NCAA is probably going to do something else in this regard. But now Michigan, I guess this week, is trying to once again get the toothpaste back in the tube. And you got now Patridge getting fired. And then also you have the acceptance of the 3-game suspension of Coach Harbaugh, where he's already served 1 game, and this won't continue to be a pending litigious matter. Now, the other fun detail here. Ross Dellinger and Dan Wetzel reported that a Michigan booster known as Uncle T helped funded the Wolverines' alleged scheme, in particular, ex-staffer Connor Stallion's advanced scouting operation. I want to know who Uncle T is. Some people said maybe it's Michigan alum in Tom Brady. That has since been refuted and has been reported down. My one theory on who Uncle T is maybe Tony Soprano is still alive. Maybe he did not die. Maybe he is still living. And there is a photo of Tony Soprano in a Rutgers shirt. Maybe he was on that Rutgers sideline doing a little scouting, and the great Tony Soprano is still alive. That is my theory on who Uncle T is. It's not Tom Brady. It's America's favorite uncle helping America's team in Michigan. And Tony Soprano, who knows a few things, getting behind the scenes and doing things a little bit dirty, is now aiding the Michigan Wolverines. Go Blue! Tony Soprano, alive and well. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Real quickly, what about the future of Jim Harbaugh? After all we found out this week, where Michigan is kind of putting a pause on fighting back, right? They're putting a pause on due process. You just had the linebackers coach fired. Now he's going to serve the next 2 games and complete the 3-game suspension. There could be something else coming around the corner from the NCAA. Remember, there was already that issue about the recruiting violations. Now there's this issue. I don't know how quickly the NCAA will move. They could still kick the can down the road for 3-4 more years. But before any of this stuff came out, talk about the latest scandal, there was a belief and there were reports that Jim Harbaugh was inching closer and closer to signing a lucrative long-term extension with the Wolverines. And since that has started to fade away, then pick back up some momentum, then fade away, we haven't heard anything else about it. Yes or no? I'll go around the room here. Stu, do you think Jim Harbaugh is back next year as the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines?
I do not. I still think he goes to the NFL.
Samter, do you think Jim Harbaugh is back next year as the coach of the Michigan Wolverines?
I do.
Okay. Ack, next year, where's Jim Harbaugh?
Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor. All righty.
Well, hold on. I mean, he could be just living there and having fun. Are you talking about like being the head coach of Michigan or just living there?
At the university.
Yes, I think Ack is assuming that Jim
As a
Harbaugh...
professor of biology or, again, head coach? What are we talking about here?
Maybe he'll work at the Brown Jug where he got popped for that cheeseburger
Starbucks.
violation.
Hey, Jim Harbaugh serving me my iced latte. I love it.
Zingerman's.
Yeah, oh, there we go. Ack knows a thing or two about Ann Arbor. One of the great delicatessens in America, Zingerman's in Ann Arbor. Absolutely delicious. And that's actually become a big dilemma when I'm there next week. I fly in early Friday. We have dinner already booked, a bunch of friends and yours truly. And we're wondering with the game on Saturday and then it being at noon and probably we're going to be having a few adult beverages and then leaving early Sunday morning at 7 a.m. when we get the Zingerman's fix in. But I think it's a must stop. But we got to work on the load management of trying to get Zingerman's. But anyway, I'll give you my answer. I think Harbaugh's preference is to stay with Michigan, but he has dipped his toe in the NFL waters the last 2 years. No one has taken him up on that, right? Had that long meeting with the Vikings, a long interview of over 10 hours, didn't get the job. Last year was begging for a job, didn't get a job. I do think there's going to be interest in Jim Harbaugh this year. I said Buffalo going back to September. The Commanders are going to be make a big splash. Maybe the Raiders end up getting into the services of Jim Harbaugh, which they didn't really 2 years ago. Chicago with the Bears handing the keys to the franchise over to Jim. I do believe there will be enough here where Jim looks at it and goes, do I want to deal with the eventual suspension from the NCAA? Do I want to deal with the never-ending changing of college football, which I think is for the better, in NIL and also the transfer portal? Or do I want to go back to the NFL where, I don't want to leave my alma mater, but in 4 years, I went to 3 NFC title games, and I also went to a Super Bowl. So I do believe that Harbaugh, even though he's odd, even though he's quirky, even though when you think he's going to turn right, he turns left, and most people think he's going to the NFL, so that would indicate maybe Ack is right that he stays. I do think that Harbaugh gets a job offer from the NFL this year, and I don't think he's going to turn it down. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. When we come on back, we got some questions. We'll give you some answers. We do this segment every Monday and Friday right here on the show. It's called Onside, Offsides. Next up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here is the Ack Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the Bengals not only lost last night, but also lost quarterback Joe Burrow for the season. MRIs revealed torn ligaments in his wrist, and he is heading for surgery. Another devastating blow in a season that has been filled with injuries.
You work so hard for seasons and moments like these, so whenever you get hurt and it ends it early, it's tough to handle. But that's part of the game. Been through it before, so just got to grind it out.
At 5-5, Cincinnati's playoff hopes took a hit with last night's loss and a bigger one with the loss of Burrow going forward. Jake Browning right now the starter. The Ravens' win was also costly as they lost tight end Mark Andrews, not only to an ankle injury, but also to a broken bone in his leg. Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel said he's optimistic running back Devon Achane will be back on Sunday. College basketball right now in the top 25. It's Miami in front of Georgia at the half by a score of 39-29. The Rockets have been one of the more pleasant surprises of the young season. They've won 6 in a row, the latest coming against the defending champs, and they're in L.A. tonight to take on the Clippers. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube and in the palm of your hand with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Fairfield by Marriott, part of the Marriott Bonvoy portfolio of hotels, is the official hotel partner of the NCAA with over 1,000 locations around the country. You will always have the home field advantage. Visit fairfield.com to book your stay. Tomorrow, number 5 Washington travels to Corvallis to take on number 11 Oregon State. The Beavers are 8-2 on the season, behind 26 total touchdowns from DJ Uiagalelei, while Michael Penix looks to solidify his Heisman candidacy as he has 30 total touchdowns and over 3,500 passing yards. We got some questions. We got some answers. We do this segment every Monday and Friday. Let's get to a little onside offside. Stu, hit it!
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
All righty, Big Mike, CBS, Moist Mike, whatever the kids call you these days. What do we got?
The kids don't call me anything. I'm a blur. The Texans host Arizona, having won 5 of their last 7, including a 20-point win in Jacksonville back in Week 3. Houston sits just a game back of the Jags and hosts the defending South champs next week. So onside, offsides, you actually have more faith in the Texans right now than you do in the Jags.
They've closed the gap. The Texans still have a while to go and a long ways to go, but they've been very impressive. And as you pointed out, that's got the Texans their first win of the season and really started this run when they spanked the Jaguars. I still think the Jaguars win the rematch. Trevor Lawrence needs to play better up against great teams, but he's still a good quarterback. The Jaguars are still a good team, and I do think they are just more ready now than the Texans, where the Texans have taken a big step. And maybe they make the playoffs now with all these quarterbacks going down and C.J. Stroud's playing like he's the MVP of the league. But I will still trust, even though I love what I'm seeing from Stroud and DeMeco Ryans, the duo of Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence, to find a way to be better than the Texans. You asked me, you have more faith in the Texans right now than the Jaguars. Could go both ways, but I'll lean more offside than onside.
Offside.
Number 2.
The Raiders have won both their games under Antonio Pierce, but those came against Tommy DeVito and Zach Wilson.
Sorry, Stu.
Yeah, this week they get a real test and travel to Miami to take on the Dolphins. So onside, offsides, Stu's Raiders are legitimate playoff contenders.
That's a no for me, dog. Like, you could make the argument, oh, they're 5-5. Like, they have a chance, sure. Like, that's like me saying, I'll use this reference once again, I have a chance to maybe like date Margot Robbie or Beyonce. You could talk yourself into it being better than what it actually is, but you know you don't really have a shot. I just can't see Aiden O'Connell making the playoffs and starting a playoff game. Stu, who was your quarterback the year where they played the Texans when Carr got hurt? Do you remember who that quarterback was that started for the Raiders?
Yes. So, it was supposed to be the former Penn State quarterback.
McGloin?
It's supposed to be McGloin. He started the last week against the Broncos. He got hurt, so they had to use Connor Cook, who was a rookie, like a 4th or 5th round draft pick, whatever round he was in, and he played, and they got whooped by the Texans.
Like, if I say Aiden O'Connell, can anyone envision him playing in the playoffs this year?
Cannot.
Yeah, neither can I. So there's your answer. And also, are we really going to hype up a team after taking care of business against the Giants and the Jets? Like, is that really what we're going to do here? It's like, what are we? It's like the way we talk about the Cowboys. They crush the Giants and the Jets. And then they actually play a good team. It's like, oh, yeah, not that good. So let's pump the brakes a little bit on the Raiders' love. Good to see Antonio Pierce get back-to-back victories. But now you're going up against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are going to smother them this weekend. So the Raiders are legitimate playoff contenders. I go offside.
Offside. Now, I sent a quick note this morning. I was going through some mock drafts. And, they'll say team needs, offensive line, quarterback, defensive back. And
real quickly before you continue this story,
yes.
I did not read that. I saw that there was some message that you sent with the picture. I was in the dentist chair, and I forgot to go back to it. But I saw that you said, sorry, Stu, or something like that. So what was the
so
the
I was
pick
on
here?
One of the mock drafts, and this was pick number 16 for the Raiders. And like I said, you'll always see in a mock draft team needs and then who they're going to draft. team needs for the Raiders? Quote, literally everything.
I vehemently disagree because they do not need a punter. They have one of the best punters in the league. Other than that, though, I would agree.
You know who he sounds like, Samter, when he does that creepy laugh? You sound like Dr. Evil. And they're like, oh!
100 million draft picks.
Now you just need a mini-me.
Now, we've talked a little bit about this now with the Joe Burrow injury, but the Browns host the Steelers and will do so with Dorian Thompson-Robinson under center after Deshaun Watson went down for the season. DTR was a mess in his only other start, throwing 3 picks in a blowout loss to the Ravens. So onside, offside, it is a mistake starting DTR over PJ Walker.
Like, when you say a mistake, could this be like you spill some milk or something like that, or you forget some eggs?
This is a 6-3 team fighting for a playoff spot.
But, like, there's different levels of mistakes. Like, can I just say a small mistake?
Like, you're not burning the house down, but maybe you're, burning the kitchen.
Okay. I don't think it really matters, but PJ Walker did play in 2 games that they won. And I don't know if they necessarily won because of him, but that's why I would go back to the well with PJ Walker. It does seem bizarre, and now you know what's going to happen. Dorian Thompson-Robinson's going to get on the field, and he's going to light the field on fire in a good way, not burn the entire house down. I'll lean more so PJ over DTR. So you say is it a mistake starting DTR over PJ Walker? A minor mistake. So, yeah, I would go onsides there.
Now, to facing backlash over her comments about making up quotes from coaches, Carissa Thompson issued a statement on Instagram saying, quote, she chose the wrong words to describe the situation, quote, never lied, and, quote, never attributed anything I said to a player or coach, end quotes. Onside, offside, Thompson's statement is enough for you to forget it and move on.
So, I actually think the statement was worse and made it worse because you said what you said and then you're like trying to backtrack and go, oh, you never made anything up from the coaches or whatever and said it was from a coach. You know me, yesterday, you were ready to just freak out and lose your mind, Samter, and you're like, oh, that's going to set back the sideline reporters 30 years. And I go, what she did was wrong, and she shouldn't say what she did, but I didn't have this passion like everybody else where I was freaking out over this story. It was stupid, but it's not as if I need to hear from every other reporter here as you need to go after Carissa Thompson because I don't call then your work into jeopardy. What she did was dumb. I'm ready to move on from this, but I don't think her statement helped here. I actually think the statement made it worse. So when you said Thompson's statement is enough for you to forget and move on, the statement is actually the one thing that has annoyed me here. So now it brings a little extra fuel to the fire. So I will actually say offside, even though I was ready to move on yesterday and I really don't care still today. But the statement was like, well, you were all about it when you said the quote and you said, I've said this before and nothing's ever happened and I still have a job. And now it's like, oh, it was taken out of context or I never misquoted a coach. What are you talking about? You said what you said. So I will actually, in a surprising way, go offside on this one.
Offside.
But I do hope that this goes away very quickly.
Now, to last week's
Were you surprised that she was on Amazon last night? I saw Michelle Tafoya thought that they were going to pull her off Amazon. Now it's a different role. She's a studio host. And no one acknowledged it from my knowledge on Amazon last night. I didn't watch the post game, so maybe they did. And if they did, I apologize. But Al Michaels, you missed a golden opportunity. When you had the Burrow injury, all Al Michaels needed to say was, I'm sure Carissa Thompson's going to be talking to the coaching staff at halftime, and she'll have all the latest for you on the halftime show in regards to Joe Burrow. I would have loved if Al Michaels did that. And he has the clout to be able to get away with something like that.
You know what? Twitter did it for him because it was just lighting up with fake Carissa Thompson reports.
Who was it? Who was the anchor from CNN? Brian Williams, was it? Who was the guy?
NBC, I believe.
NBC.
Yeah, Brian Williams.
Yeah, remember he kept on saying he was at things and then he got fired? I'm pretty sure that was him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Carissa Thompson, Brian Williams.
Yeah,
never seen them in the same room together.
Yeah, a little bit different. Yeah, they're the same person. After last week's big win over USC, Oregon QB Bo Nix became the new odds-on favorite to win the Heisman, followed by Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, and Marvin Harrison to round out the top 4. So onside, offside, Bo Nix should win the Heisman Trophy this year.
I can't say that right now because I don't know if he's going to win the Pac-12 championship. If he wins the Pac-12 championship at Oregon and they're in the college football playoff, it's going to be tough because I do think right now three people that have a really good chance of winning the award are Bo Nix, Michael Penix. One of them going to win the Pac-12, you would think. We'll see what happens after this weekend. And then somehow, I don't believe Ohio State's beating Michigan, but somehow if Ohio State does beat Michigan, then there's going to be a big push for Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. But right now I have to say offside just because I don't know if he's going to be in the college football playoff with the Ducks.
Offside. Shohei Ohtani won AL MVP in unanimous fashion yesterday. His second win in the last 3 seasons and 5th for an Angels star in 10 years. Obviously, Mike Trout had his 3. Now a free agent, Ohtani has apparently told teams that any leaking of information, including contract size or even that he's visiting that team, will be held against them in his decision. So onside, offside, Ohtani is the biggest free agent in sports history.
So could we hack Jeff Passan's Twitter and block me from Jeff Passan's Twitter and just start tweeting out, hey, he wants to go to the Dodgers. Hey, he wants to go to the Giants, just so we could try to alter the decision-making from Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani's the biggest free agent in sports history. Baseball history, sure. Sports history, I will go offside. Just in my lifetime, remember the daily reporting about LeBron James and then the show, The Decision? That was bigger than Ohtani. And baseball, I hate to say it, I love baseball, but in the year of 2023, even though Ohtani's the biggest draw to the sport, it just doesn't have the coverage and the buzz as it once did. So I will still say LeBron is a bigger free agent in sports history, and then what came with that chase than Ohtani right now. So I will go offside here.
Offside.
All right, that's some onside offside on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. When we come on back, we've seen Ken Dorsey get fired this week. Is Matt Canada with the Steelers next? Big game for the Steelers. We know their defense should be able to show up, but how about their offense, which has pretty much been non-existent all year, as Kenny Pickett only has 6 passing touchdowns on the season. Could Matt Canada be shown the door if the Steelers don't get a victory on Sunday? We'll discuss when we return in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. There's a lot of pressure on the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. You are a 6-3 football team inside your own division. The Ravens just advanced to 8-3 last night. The Bengals fall to 5-5. Joe Burrow is done for the season. And then the Cleveland Browns, a team that you're going up against this weekend, Sunday at the Cleveland Browns Stadium, is starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson because Deshaun Watson is out for the year. We all know the Steelers have a tremendous defense. TJ Watt is sensational. Alex Highsmith is phenomenal. This defense is so good in Pittsburgh. Cleveland also has a lethal defense. And when you look at both of these offenses, they have been highly offensive this year. Where the Browns, unfortunately, have lost Nick Chubb for the year. Deshaun Watson is now done for the year. And for the Steelers, they have not had any success on the offensive side of the ball. They've been outgained in every game this season. And I look at Pittsburgh, and I'm saying, where are they heading offensively? Matt Canada is a bad offensive coordinator. I don't care if he's on the sidelines or if he's up in the coach's box. You then look at Kenny Pickett. He has 6 passing touchdowns this year. It is crazy for an NFL quarterback that was drafted in the first round and is in year number 2, who, by the way, has 7 game-winning drives in his career, to only have 6 passing touchdowns this season. We know George Pickens is all about himself, and even when the team wins, he's annoyed that he doesn't get enough targets. Najee Harris has been too up and down. I like Jaylen Warren. This offensive line has not been good enough. This is a big week for Matt Canada, because I don't want to hear, if the Steelers lose this game to Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Kenny Pickett can't do jack on offense and the Steelers offense can't do anything, I don't want to hear Mike Tomlin defend his offensive coordinator after the game. If Matt Canada can't find a way to put more points on the board than Dorian Thompson-Robinson's Cleveland Browns, he needs to be shown the door, and he needs to be fired after this game. And don't tell me, oh, there's no point to change an offensive coordinator or you can't do it. Because we just saw the Buffalo Bills get rid of Ken Dorsey coming off a loss. I don't think it will happen with Mike Tomlin. I don't believe, since Mike Tomlin hasn't done it yet, that he will do it. And he's kind of pushed back on any criticism of Matt Canada. And we all know everyone in that fan base has galvanized around and waved their terrible towels around the idea of getting rid of Matt Canada. But I don't want to hear this nonsense. I don't want to hear excuses if you don't beat the Cleveland Browns. You lose to the Cleveland Browns and the Browns have Deshaun Watson, different story. You lose that game 17-16. You lose that game 23-20, 27-24. Okay, I can live with that. If you go down to Deshaun Watson, who was just starting to knock off the rust before his season-ending injury. You lose to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and your offense looks lethargic and putrid. I don't want to see Matt Canada have a job on Monday. You know, it's one thing if you lose the game and no one thinks his score is going to be like 41-38. Can't even say that with a straight face. Or 38-34, even 31-28. No one thinks the score is going to be that high. This is going to be a sloppy, tough game to watch, low-scoring game where, in all honesty, the defenses probably will get a score. They may both get a score each. And we saw what Pittsburgh was able to do the first time up against Cleveland when Pittsburgh won in their house, and what their defense was able to do with TJ Watt that night and Alex Highsmith as well. But if this is a game where we expect it to be low-scoring, under 20 points, 20-7, maybe you get to 20, you get to 20-17, whatever it is, 17-14, and this offense does nothing and one of your scores come defensively, I don't understand when you have a team that has a great defense and has a championship caliber defense and the offense has been horrendous, how you would be able to justify continuing with Matt Canada. It is the definition of insanity when things fail to not adapt, to not adjust, and to not change. And now injuries do matter. And the bar for the Cleveland Browns has been set lower, even though the Browns are 6-3 and the Steelers are 6-3. But you look at the offense, Kenny Pickett in year 2, Matt Canada another year in this offense, should be able to put up more points than the Cleveland Browns when the Browns are starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA. It just has to happen this week. The Steelers, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. I have no reason to believe in the offense. But these teams are pretty much identical. Defense, solid. Defense, phenomenal. Defense, great. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you don't really know what you're going to get. At least you know Cleveland has a good offensive line, even with the Jedrick Wills injury. At least Cleveland, even without Nick Chubb, has displayed they can run the football. But for the Steelers, it's spin the wheel every week of incompetence on what their offense is going to be. And most of the weeks, it pops up with a crappy offensive performance, and the defense does enough. And it's kind of remarkable. Like, the Steelers are one of those teams that you look at them and you go, they're 6-3? Like, how are they 6-3 with how brutal this offense has been? And it once again just displays how great this defense has been, even with injuries to Minkah Fitzpatrick, even with injuries to Cam Hayward. But this is the last straw. This should be it for Matt Canada. As an offensive coordinator with a young second-year quarterback where things have not clicked here and things have not thrived, I get it. The Browns' defense is really damn bleeping good. But it's not as if your defense, which is just as good of the Steelers, is going up against this phenomenal quarterback. This is one of the few weeks where on paper the Steelers should have the edge on offense. Even with what Kareem Hunt can do, even with what that offensive line is in Cleveland, it's Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The Steelers have some pieces on offense. Like, I like Jalen Warren. George Pickens, he's got to screw his head on straight, but he should be a good wide receiver. Deontay Johnson has potential. Freiermuth, coming back, it looks like. There are pieces on the Steelers. And for this offense to continue to be slop, continue to be just anemic, continue to just be sluggish, that's not okay. Because we opened up the show with this, with Joe Burrow going down, how a few weeks ago the Bengals were back, and now the Bengals look like they're cooked because they're going to have to start Jake Browning with Joe Burrow done for the season. You know the Chiefs still haven't played their best game on offense, but their defense has been really great, and no one's going to want to see Kansas City come playoff time as long as 15 is healthy. The Ravens, they already have 8 wins on the season. They're 8-3. However, with Baltimore is one Lamar Jackson injury away, unfortunately, from their season coming to an end. And the last 2 years, we've seen Lamar not be on the field at the end of the season. We know the Chiefs and the Ravens are the 2 best teams in the AFC. But if you only have 2 teams in the conference that everyone says are the 2 best teams in the conference, this is an open conference. And inside the AFC East, the Dolphins are good, not great. The Bills you can't trust. The Jets you can't trust. And the AFC North, Bengals are now cooked. Browns still have a good roster. But are we going to believe in Dorian Thompson-Robinson? In the South, it's really just 2 teams. It's the Texans, and then it's also the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I guess the Colts still have a chance, but I'm not believing in the Colts. Talk about just making the playoffs. And in the AFC West, Raiders, I guess, are alive. Chargers, I guess, are alive, but I don't believe in either of those teams. Broncos, I guess, are alive, but I don't believe in them. And we know how great Kansas City can be. So we know what travels, defense. We know that defense wins games and wins championships. Now, I'm not saying the Steelers are good enough to win a championship this year, but in a year of anything could really happen where I said this in the beginning of the show, hey, there's only 5 teams right now through 10, 11 weeks that I view as Super Bowl contenders, and there's only 2 coming from the AFC and the Ravens or the Chiefs, and then 3 coming from the NFC and the Eagles, the 49ers, and then also the Lions. That shows you that this year is open. So now, through 10 weeks of slop, through 10 weeks of crap, the Steelers have to put their best foot forward. It's put up or shut up time. And I'm not going to enable or allow the excuses to continue and the defense that Mike Tomlin has of Matt Canada to continue. I said it a few moments ago. I'll say it again. The Steelers' offense looks putrid on Sunday. The Steelers' offense plays poorly in another low-scoring affair, and they can't beat Dorian Thompson-Robinson and the Cleveland Browns, even with how great Cleveland's defense is. There should be no more justifying and no more allowing Matt Canada to be this offensive coordinator. It would just make absolutely 0 sense. Looking at the rest of the NFL slate this weekend, because I do think there's enormous pressure now on the Steelers. Like the Browns lose, I think everyone's going to say, oh, they lost to Deshaun Watson early in the week. Even though these teams are very even though both these teams are 6-3, the Steelers now have more pressure because they at least have their starting quarterback. I look at the Bills. Tremendous amount of pressure on the Bills this weekend. And the Jets the last 2 years have had their number. Jets with Zach Wilson beat Buffalo one time last year. Jets this year with Zach Wilson beat Buffalo after Aaron Rodgers did go down. That crazy Monday Night Football game to start the season where you had the walk-off punt return for the game-winning touchdown. Buffalo now fires Ken Dorsey. Buffalo now hands the baton over to Joe Brady, make him the new interim offensive coordinator. And now you're going up against the Jets. I don't even remember the last time the Jets scored an offensive touchdown. It's been that long. So, for Buffalo, I don't want to hear, oh, their offense hasn't been able to figure it out. Or, oh, on defense, they're missing Matt Milano. Or, oh, they're missing Tre'Davious White. The Jets have a great defense. We all know that. But on offense, they have literally done nothing. On offense, they have been an embarrassment. They can't score. They can't put the ball in the end zone. Yeah, they have Breece Hall. They have Garrett Wilson. But they don't have a quarterback. And they have maybe the worst offensive line that I've ever seen in the history of the NFL with the Jets, Jets. So Steelers, tremendous pressure this week. You take a glance at Buffalo, tremendous pressure this week. And then also, I put some pressure on the Denver Broncos too. Coming off a win in a game where Sean Payton tried to be stupid at the end and got bailed out by Sean McDermott because Sean McDermott can't count and Sean McDermott had too many guys on the field and bailed him out on that missed field goal, and then they connect the next one. Vikings, Josh Dobbs' story has been tremendous. But when Courtland Sutton takes that victory lap this week and says, oh, you now need to issue an apology to Russell Wilson and post that apology form, Broncos better win this week. Broncos are a 2.5-point favorite at home. Broncos are now starting to feel themselves a little bit. They're starting to get a little loquacious in Denver because they've won 3 games in a row, taking care of the Packers who stink, but then the Chiefs and the Bills, right, who before the season started, we know the Chiefs are still a great team, but Buffalo was viewed as a great team. So Denver, you want to talk that, you know what? You better back it up this week. So those are 3 teams heading into this NFL weekend. Broncos, I think there's pressure up against the Vikings. Bills, there's pressure up against the Jets. And then I will also say there's a lot of pressure on the Steelers offense to have a pulse up against the Cleveland Browns. And then one more that I'll give you here. The Jaguars, this isn't a must-win. This isn't a can't lose. This is a you gotta have it. It's not going to look pretty up against Tennessee. Tennessee's not a good football team. They have the ability, though, to do some things on offense with Levis, with Hopkins, with Derrick Henry as well. The Jaguars coming off that performance last week where they just got smacked up against the 49ers. I know Jacksonville before that did win 4 games or 5 games in a row, taking care of the Falcons, the Bills, the Colts, the Saints, and the Steelers. This is a game that you just got to have. And we'll see what they do up against Tennessee before their next matchup against the Houston Texans, and that is on Thanksgiving weekend, Sunday, 1 o'clock on CBS. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Let's go to Michael in Vegas next up on the show. Michael, what's happening?
Hey, Zach. Love your show.
Appreciate it. What do you got?
Hey, I just want to tell you, is it Matt Canada or is it the quarterback for the Steelers? I'm not so sure that Pickett's any good or whatever his name is.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think Kenny Pickett's going to be this phenomenal football player and he's going to light the world on fire, but they have enough pieces there where this offensive coordinator should make this offense at least look competent. And even though they have a 6-3 record, they have not been competent at all this year. That offense has been trash, it's been garbage, and it's been incompetent. So I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett deserves a pass. Now, like Kenny Pickett in a weird way, he has 7 game-winning drives in his career, which is crazy. He hasn't even completed 2 years. There's so many negative things said about Kenny Pickett, and he only has 7 game-winning drives. So part of the blame is on Kenny Pickett, but we know coaches fall first before players. And it's not as if Matt Canada is dialing up these wonderful plays and it's just all lack of execution. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We got some NFL picks in college and the NFL with Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight via BETQL.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Time for our weekly Football Friday chat to try to win you some money with Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight via BETQL. Horvat, appreciate the time as always. How you been?
Great to be back. Doing great, man. Getting excited for these games this weekend. Pretty good slate that we got in both college and the NFL, luckily, this week.
So I have my niece's 1-year-old birthday party tomorrow, and it's right at 2 p.m. It's from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. I made sure that where we're going, there's going to be a TV, multiple TVs, so I am all locked in to college football, even with having some uncle duties as well. So I need some early winners from you, and I need some good gambling fix so I even have more of an incentive to continue to monitor these games outside of just being the diligent talk show host that I am, that I'll be following these games anyway. But I need a little extra skin in the game so I don't get distracted from my niece and by my niece too much. I'll start you off noon Eastern time on ABC. Louisville getting a lot of love inside the top 10 now, 9-1. Jeff Brom going home, being sensational. and they go up against Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. And the Hurricanes right now, with Mario Cristobal as their head coach in year number 2, are a 1-point favorite. Explain this line to me. 9-1 against 6-4. Miami's a 1-point favorite. What would your play be, and what is your read on this game?
All right, so I bet Miami here is 1-point dogs, which 1-point favorites. It doesn't really make a whole lot of a difference right here. I do think that they win the game. I think the thinking behind this and the reason that the line is where it's at and the reason why Miami's taking some professional money, Louisville's only played 2 true road games this season, and they got blown out by a terrible Pittsburgh team by 17 points, and then they barely got past North Carolina State by a field goal earlier. And this time of the year, when you're handicapping college football games, you like to look at strength of schedule. And yeah, Louisville, great season for Jeff Brom, year 1, they're 9-1. But, you look at the strength of schedule and even their quality wins, like Notre Dame, that was a great spot. Notre Dame had just gotten beat by Ohio State. Then the following week, they had that last minute win over Duke. I think that, Miami's going to show well here. They're able to run the football. The issue for them has been Tyler Van Dyke has not been healthy. And when he has been out there, the last 5 games that he's played, he's thrown 11 interceptions. I think as long as he limits those turnovers, I think they should have some success on the ground. They should be able to bully Louisville in the trenches a little bit. I like the Canes here. It's always scary backing this team, though. Even at home, they don't really have a home field advantage. And Mario hasn't done very well at home since he's taken over the program. But I do think they get the job done tomorrow.
Ryan Horvat here with us. Let's go 3:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Number 1, Georgia. Number 18, Tennessee. The Dogs are a 10-point favorite. I feel like anytime Georgia, right, is like a 10-point favorite, it starts to have that conversation, like even up against Ole Miss last week, 10.5 points. Do you plus the number? Is Georgia vulnerable? That's been the conversation since September. Georgia hasn't lost a game. Looks like Brock Bowers coming back as well. Is this one of those games where you look at it and it's, everyone said that conversation the last few weeks. No one's really been able to do well outside of Missouri, given a good effort. Is this one of those games where Vegas is saying, hey, it's only a 10-point spread. Everyone's going to jump on the Dogs, lay the 10, and then Tennessee finds a way to cover?
Yeah, this one's funny, right? Because this is where if you're betting games, especially in college football, like the NFL is a little bit different, but in college football, you have to have a short memory because I like Tennessee last week. They didn't show up for that game. They scored 7 points, which, a Josh Heupel team only scoring 7 points. I never thought that I would see the day. But Tennessee, I think they go back to the basics this week against Georgia. I think they should actually be able to have some success on the ground. They have 3 really good running backs. Right now, Tennessee's actually top 10 in explosive run rate. They don't really push the ball down the field. Joe Milton, I do not trust him whatsoever. He looked really good that first half against Alabama. And then, after that, he's just kind of been shaky all season long. But I actually think that Tennessee might be able to not completely shut down Georgia's offense. The offense has been great. Carson Beck's averaging over 300 passing yards. Like you said, they get Brock Bowers back. They're starting to be able to run the ball a little bit better. They're getting more push up front with that offensive line. But the Tennessee defensive front has actually been pretty good in defending the inside and outside zone runs. They could get after the quarterback a little bit. So I think Tennessee keeps this game close. I don't know how they do it, but I took them with the points here, plus 10.5.
Ryan Horvat joining us from BetQL. All righty, let's go to what may be the game of the weekend. We have Washington, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, going to Oregon State in Corvallis. Oregon State, 8-2, 11th in the country. We know Washington has not lost a game, and still somehow, some way, the College Football Playoff Committee, even though their rankings suggest that Washington has the best win of the season, taking care of Oregon, who's ranked 6, still doesn't have Washington in the top 4 for the College Football Playoff. Oregon State, a 1-point favorite, so a pick 'em pretty much. Who's going to win this game between Washington and Oregon State?
All right, I've had this one circled. So I like the spot, and I like the trends. I like the number. I like everything here. I took Oregon State on the money line. I think they win this game outright. I think it's kind of like a market indicator that you have an undefeated team going against a 2-loss team, and, the 2-loss team's taking money. They're out to 2-point favorites right now. I love Washington. I like Michael Penix. I love Kalen DeBoer, 17 straight wins. but that defense has been flirting with disaster. You know, a couple of weeks ago, they didn't even show very well against Stanford, and they're not very physical up front. Like Washington's outside the top 100 in line yards, havoc created, stuff rate, success rate, tackles for loss. They're not a great tackling team, and that's what Oregon State's going to want to do. They're going to want to bully them in the trenches. They have probably the second best offensive line in the Pac-12 next to Oregon. Damian Martinez and Fenwick have both been really good carrying the football this season. They're top 25 in explosive runs. Last year in the same matchup, they both averaged over 6 yards per carry. And DJU's been pretty good. You know, they're 15th in the country in passing down explosiveness. So I think they're going to have some success against that Washington defense. I think it might be a higher scoring game. And if you like trends, Corvallis, man, the Beavers at home, 17-1 against the spread over the past 3 seasons, the most profitable team in all of college football. It's a tough place to play. It's a primetime game. The crowd's going to be electric. I like the Beavers to pull off. I guess I wouldn't call it an upset because they're favored in the game, but if Washington goes down, that shakes everything up, you know?
Yeah, and you know what? Jonathan Smith, I know he's an Oregon State guy, but now left out of pretty much all the movement away from the Pac-12. You hear about A&M, and you also hear about Mississippi State opening up, and no one talks about this guy for getting either of those jobs. I think he would be a really good hire for both schools. And this is a guy that is definitely fed up with everything happening, even at his school, because, you know, you have a team, but you don't have a home in a conference. And they're talking about the Mountain West and all that stuff. There's a program that would make a smart hire if they end up bringing him in as the next head football coach.
Completely agree. Like, look what he's done. And I mean, there's a lot of guys. You got Lance at Kansas who took that program over, but
And
I mean,
he
Oregon
says he doesn't want to leave. So take that for what it's worth. But he said that's his last job, Kansas. Now we'll see if that actually happens.
Yeah. Dan Lanning said the same about Oregon. I actually believe Dan Lanning, though.
I do too.
I mean,
you know why? You know why, Ryan? He needs to just look at that institution. Look at Willie Taggart. Willie Taggart left Oregon after an year at Oregon. Goes to Florida State. I don't even know where Willie Taggart is anymore because he got fired from the school in Florida too. Do not leave a good situation for A&M, which, has all these resources, but it's not like Oregon has no resources. They have Phil Knight. That's a tremendous job. I know he's an SEC guy, has all the roots. He would be stupid. And I would say this to him if he's on the show right now. I know he follows me on Twitter, so he sees my tweets because I put this video out there. He would be stupid if he left Oregon for A&M right now.
I completely agree, man. And when I talk about Oregon this season, like, people call me crazy. I think that they could beat Michigan and Georgia on a neutral field. I really do. And I know, like, last year, week 1 against Georgia, they didn't show very well. That was Dan Lanning's first game as head coach. Yeah. Bo Nix was being introduced to a new offense. But what's scary about Oregon, man, is...
And that turned out to be one of the great college football teams of all time, too, in Georgia.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's scary about Oregon, man? They're not your typical Pac-12 team. They've kind of become what Utah has been. Like, they could bowl you in the trenches. I think they have the best offensive line. You know, defensively, they could get after the quarterback, and they could run the ball. Bucky Irving's averaging over 7 yards per carry, and then Bo Nix is most likely going to be your Heisman. So they're a scary football team. I just hope that they take care of business. That game next week against Oregon State is going to be really, really good. Luckily, that game, though, is in Eugene, so they get that going for them.
All righty, let's cue the NFL music. It's time to get to some picks right now. I will start things off. I'm going to have a trend here in my first 2 picks. Usually I get afraid by a big number. That's not the case here. Dolphins, this is now up to a 13-point favorite. Raiders have won back-to-back games. It's a win streak for Stuart Kovacs, our big-time Raider fan here on the show. But you were going up against 2 dog bleep teams in the New York Football Giants and the New York Jets. Now you're going up against the Dolphins, who, for Miami, the last time we saw them out on the football field, their offense did nothing. I love the Dolphins this week. I think the Dolphins are the definition, as a lot of teams are this year, good but not great. The Raiders may look like they have a good, solid record, but they're not a good football team. They are average at best. I think the Dolphins put up points, and more points. And I did see that they got rid of Robbie Anderson, who used to be a college classmate of mine. I think that even helps the Miami Dolphins even more. Tyreek Hill, load him up with a bunch of touchdowns this week. I love the Dolphins laying the 13.
I agree. I love them laying the 13 as well, and I also like the team total over on the points in case like big numbers scare you off. But all right, I'm going to go with a ugly favorite. I guess they're a favorite now. I'm going to go with the Browns on the money line against the Steelers. You know, the Steelers, they've been outgained in all 9 games this season, but they keep finding ways to win. They find ways to win because they could get after the quarterback, but when they don't get after the quarterback, they have a bottom 5 pass defense actually in this league. They keep winning games because they only have 8 turnovers this season. Kenny Pickett, quarters 1 through 3, you know, he's all over the place. But in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden he becomes Tom Brady. But I don't like the Matt Canada offense, man. Above average run rates. Kenny Pickett not pushing the ball down the field at all. I went back, I watched the last 2 weeks. He hasn't attempted a throw between the hashes the last 2 games. The offense is just not creative whatsoever. And the Browns have been really dominant against the run. You know, I know they've kind of come back down to earth the last couple weeks against teams like Baltimore, but that's a really good Browns defense. And I know it's DTR getting the start, and the first start didn't go very well. He had a bunch of turnovers, but he found out that he was starting 3 hours before kickoff. Now they've had a full week to prepare. I think we see more of the DTR game plan, a lot of RPOs. I think they're going to be able to target the Steelers in the middle of the field. They're beat up at the linebacker position. No Minkah Fitzpatrick still in this game. I like the Browns to win this game, even with DTR taking over for Deshaun Watson, who, let's be honest, hasn't been great this season outside of the fourth quarter last week against Baltimore.
And you look at that spread, it's at Cleveland -1.5. Even after the Deshaun injury news from earlier in the week, it's almost like they're begging you to take the Steelers plus the points. I think that is a savvy play by one Ryan Horvat, who joins us right now from BetMGM tonight via BetQL. All righty, big spread here. I'm surprised the spread isn't even higher. That's what makes me a little bit concerned about it. But the Panthers just have no damn clue what they're doing. A few weeks ago, we got to take away the play calling duties from Frank Reich. Now he has the play calling duties back. Yeah, Bryce Young could be a good quarterback, but they're ruining him right in front of our eyes as we speak. Dallas, this is what they do. Great teams, they can't win. We saw that up against the Eagles. We saw that up against the San Francisco 49ers. Against the crappy teams, they look like the greatest team to ever get onto a football field. Dallas wins big. I don't even know if the Panthers score a point in this game. Give me the Cowboys laying the 10.5 points.
You know, I usually stay away from like the big primetime matchups. I try to with my picks, but I love the Eagles. I liked them at 3. They're down to 2.5 right now. I just think right now they're the better football team, which is funny, man, because coming into the season, I worried a little bit about a Super Bowl hangover, you know, replacing a lot of those guys. I worried about the slot corner position, obviously. But Jalen right now looks healthy enough, and A.J. Brown is a nightmare matchup. How do you defend him? And I like Kansas City, obviously. I love the defense. I love Spags. I think he's a genius. But they're still trying to figure out who's that number 1 guy outside of Travis Kelce. Mahomes has had some turnovers the last couple weeks. I like Philadelphia to get their revenge from the Super Bowl and win this game outright as 2.5-point dog. So I'll go with Philly plus 2.5.
How old is your son, just wondering?
10 years old.
Do you give piggybacks, just wondering?
I used to, not so much anymore. I got a bum hip now.
All righty. Well, the other hip may need some work too, because you have a large fella and yours truly jumping on your back here. You're giving me a piggyback on this one. I'm taking the Eagles as well. I had them circled as one of my 3 picks today. Love them as my underdog this week, plus 2.5. I agree with you. I think they win the game outright up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I know always betting against the Chiefs usually does not fare well. It feels like just with 2 they had, 15-87, all that stuff. I think this game means more to Philadelphia because everyone knows the Chiefs will be somewhat there at the end of the season. I know their offense has not played great this year. Their defense has been awesome. But for the Eagles, they're 8-1 coming off a bye week. And the Eagles have been told all throughout the year, oh, you're not as great as what your 8-1 record says you are. And there's still a different version of the Eagles. I think you see that. And also, Jalen Hurts, last time we saw him on the field, dealing with the bone bruise, now gets an extra week to rest up coming out of the bye. I do like the Eagles this week, even though Andy Reid is tremendous coming off a bye as well. But give me the Birds plus 2.5. Your final pick?
All right. Oh, man, I was torn between a couple really ugly dogs. I like Chicago a little bit, but the number's gone. You know, they were 9.5. Now they're down to 7.5. I don't want to do that against the Lions. So actually, I'm going to go with a favorite. Give me the Jacksonville Jags, 6.5-point favorites. Now that we're off the 7, it's -120. They're going against Tennessee. They should be healthy in this matchup. They're at home. That means Will Levis has to go on the road. And the Jags, defensively, they're starting to figure some things out, but you could still attack them through the pass game. But they're a top 5 run defense. That means they might be able to contain, at least shut down, contain Derrick Henry in this matchup. And Trevor Lawrence in that offense, not fully clicking the way that I wanted them to coming into the season, but I think they get things going against that Titans pass defense. It's always scary betting against Mike Vrabel as a big dog here, but I'll lay it with Jacksonville actually -6.5 right now. Over at BetMGM, it's -120. Give me the Jags still, though.
If Will Levis wins this game, will you put mayo in your coffee and try it on the air next week?
If Will Levis wins this game outright, yes, I will do that. And I'm embarrassed to say, I've actually tried this before. I tried this last year, when the viral videos were coming out and he was at Kentucky. And it's not that bad. I'm not even a big mayo guy, but the coffee kind of wiped away the taste. I don't know. I didn't really even notice it. I'll have to put a little bit more, I think.
I know you like my abilities as a host, but we don't reinvent the wheel here. We just like to continue to add on to the bit and almost kill the bit. So that's what we're trying to do here a year later. All these shows were doing this last year. We'll do it this year if Will Levis can find a way to get a victory.
Yeah, if he does that, I'll do. Yeah, I'm all
mayo
in.
shots for all.
Mayo shots. Yeah, and I don't like mayo, man. That's on my list. Mayo, sour cream. I don't do it.
Dolphins -13, Cowboys -10.5, Eagles +2.5. Those are my plays for Ryan Horvat. Browns, here we go, Brownies, here we go. Yeah. -1.5, Eagles +2.5, and the Jaguars laying 6.5 for Ryan Horvat. From BetMGM tonight via BETQL. Horvat, thanks so much. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, man. Enjoy the games this weekend.
You got it. There he is, Ryan Horvat joining us. We'll come on back. Got a little Ask the Pros question for you right around the corner. But first up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Oh, it has been a tough year for starting quarterbacks. A sixth is now done for the season. Joe Burrow has a torn ligament in his right wrist and will miss the final 7 games. The Bengals leader has had major injuries before and isn't about to hang his head.
I've been through stuff like this before, so it's nothing new. Like I said, it's football. Stuff like this happens. You just got to learn to live with it. And, I've talked a lot about leaning on your support system. I got a great support system, great friends, great family. I'll be around here, so not ideal, but I've got what it takes, and the people around me got what it takes to get it done.
The injury dampens any remote playoff hopes the Bengals have. They're currently 5-5 after last night's loss. The Ravens lead the AFC North at 8-3, but they're going to be without Mark Andrews the rest of the way due to an ankle injury and broken leg. The Vikings' Justin Jefferson is questionable for Sunday night's game against the Broncos. College basketball today in the top 25. There's one game going on right now, and Miami currently in front of, Miami a winner today over Georgia 79-67. In the NHL, the Maple Leafs top the Red Wings 3-2. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, Perloff, at home, in your car, and of course on your phone and tablet.
Maggie, you can find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
'You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Our final poll calculations for today. At Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, at CBS Sports Radio on Twitter. Who represents the AFC in the Super Bowl this year? Ravens, Chiefs, Dolphins, or other? Currently, 11% straight up say the Dolphins. 16.5% rock and roll with other. 29.4% say the Baltimore Ravens. And running away with this at 43.1%, the Kansas City. How about those Chiefs? I think the Chiefs are the right answer. Because even though the Ravens would not fear Kansas City, and the Ravens, as long as 8 stays healthy in Lamar Jackson, which that was a little bit of a scare last night with the ankle injury, as long as 8 is healthy, they could beat any team, not only in the AFC, but also in the NFL. However, we do this song and dance with Kansas City all the time. When you are the team, when you are that squad, everyone goes, oh, they're vulnerable. And we did it last year. Oh, they don't have Tyreek Hill. Oh, they're going to go down. And even when it doesn't look pretty, they find a way to get it done. And when the AFC is so open, or you have these teams like Joe Burrow having a quarterback get injured with the Bengals, or the Browns start to get hot, and then Deshaun Watson's out for the year, you just see there's so many teams that are falling, and it continues to work in favor of Kansas City, who still, up until this point, has not played this unbelievable great game on the offensive side of the ball. And it would be so kind of Kansas City-like to lose this game to Philly on Monday, Ravens coming off this win on Thursday, and everyone's like, oh, Ravens are now the team to beat. And then come playoff time, Kansas City gets the job done. And that's the injury part with Lamar, and him getting hurt the last 2 years still scares the you-know-what out of me. And I hope it doesn't happen. I want to see Lamar be healthy. I want to see Lamar in the Super Bowl. I would love to be in Vegas for the Super Bowl, and I'm not a fan of the Ravens, because of all the great games the Patriots and Ravens have played. But this Ravens team, I have nothing against them. But I want to see the Ravens in the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson inside a dome, fun environment, like going up against Jalen Hurts, even going up against the 49ers, the Detroit Lions. I would love to see that. It would be fun because I don't like the way that people have talked about Lamar Jackson with how young he is in this league and what he has accomplished. And just because he hasn't won yet, people go, oh, he can never win. Like you could question, will he ever win? But to say adamantly he can't win it all, I just don't understand that. Not everyone walks into the league right away and wins a Super Bowl. Like, look how long it took Peyton Manning. Look how long it took John Elway. And I'm not saying Lamar Jackson is going to be Peyton Manning or John Elway at the end of his career, but Lamar has won a unanimous MVP. Lamar is an electrifying player in the NFL. But right now, I still have to give the edge to the Chiefs, whose defense is rolling right now. I know the Ravens have a great defense too, but usually in Kansas City, it's the offense that's soaring and the defense that's playing catch-up. Now it's the offense playing catch-up and the defense doing a dominant job under Steve Spagnuolo. It's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day, and this is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Tim in Oregon says, Zach, what's your favorite Thanksgiving dessert? You could submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag #AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. So I saw this tweet today from a guy named C. Lou on Twitter. And it said, one Thanksgiving dessert has to go forever. Pecan pie, sweet potato pie, apple pie, or pumpkin pie. Now, that's a great question. I think pecan pie is the preeminent pie out of those four pies. So that means I'd have to get rid of sweet potato pie, apple pie, or pumpkin pie. Apple pie I would keep. So it's between sweet potato pie or pumpkin pie. I would get rid of pumpkin pie. That's the one that I would get rid of. Stu, you have a problem with that? Your head just dropped.
That's by far my favorite one of the four.
Really?
By far, yes.
You love pumpkin pie?
Love pumpkin pie.
Santa, are you a pumpkin pie guy?
Yeah, same boat. It's pumpkin, pecan, apple I can do without.
Okay.
Same. I can do without apple.
Even with the hunk of ice cream, the vanilla ice cream on the apple pie, that's apple pie on its own, don't love. You put a hunk of vanilla ice cream on that apple pie, I just love that taste of the apple in the ice cream.
No, sure, that definitely makes it better, but it's still third of those three. Now, give me an apple pie from McDonald's, all for it.
So Thanksgiving, you definitely have a pumpkin pie still?
Yes, every year.
100% sweet potato pie is good as well.
I like sweet potato pie.
Yeah.
I do like
But pumpkin pie is the way to go for Thanksgiving.
So I've already told you we are not big turkey people. We've dished the bird a while ago, and we are smart, and we do Thanksgiving correctly.
You are a turkey.
It's amazing how many people this month, they come up to me and they say, thank you so much for talking about how turkey's overrated. And I was actually at the doctor. This was last week. I've been doing a bunch of doctor appointments, just get them all out of the way this month. And I brought up my turkey take to the lady at the doctor, and she goes, you're so smart. I was like, oh, you're speaking my love language as well. She goes, yeah, turkey's very overrated. She goes, you deep fry it, then it's good. But if just a traditional turkey, too much work and it doesn't taste that good. So we're all in agreement there. We do this icebox cake, and I make it. Now, I think I told you guys this. Nabisco got rid of their old school, legendary, famous Nabisco chocolate wafer. After 100 years, they discontinued this wafer. So I've been on the search for the replacement. And after many weeks and many months of searching for this, and all the recommendations I read online, on Amazon I found a Nabisco wafer that is a Nabisco Oreo wafer is the way that they brand it. And it's just like made for like ice cream sandwiches, I guess, like a cookie sandwich. And they just sell the cookie. It came today. I tried it. It's a little bit thicker, like slightly, like a tad thicker than the traditional old kind of Nabisco legendary chocolate wafer. But it tastes basically the same. So I think I have, now it cost a lot of money. I got 5 pounds of these things. It was the only option that was left. I spent like $60, $70 on these wafers. Crazy.
Wow.
Now, I didn't tell my family because I know you spent how much on those cookies, you moron? And I know my family watches the show, so, I saved Thanksgiving. Zach Gelb saved Thanksgiving. And I tried the cookie last night. It was a lot of debate. I went home, visited my parents, my sister in town with the baby and all that. And I said, you got to try these cookies. And my dad was like very against it. My sister very against it. It's not going to be the same. My dad goes, this cookie actually may be better than the old school Nabisco chocolate wafer. So I saved Thanksgiving. There you go. Thank you very much. Lasagna, icebox cake, that's all I need on Thanksgiving. And I'm a very, 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 very happy camper. That concludes a Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I just read that Joe Burrow, we know, is out for the season. We know that Deshaun Watson's out for the season as well. Joe Flacco was seen last night on a plane going to Cleveland. There was a thought that he was going to sign with the Cleveland Browns. He had a meeting today, is not signing with the Cleveland Browns is what I just read. I think that was via Jordan Schultz. So have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the college football. I will talk to you Sunday at noon Eastern for 8 hours on Ion Football, and then we'll be back next week, short week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have 3 loaded shows for you as the Zach Gelb Show always gets started on all these great affiliates at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Have a great weekend, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.